I got a place in mind, drink a big old beer in a big old stein. We can knock 'em all back to our seeing double.
Well, I like making you laugh, oh honey, I like the small of your back. Run my fingers up and down while we're lying in bed. Let's go walk in the park, we can find a bit of grass till the sky gets dark. I'll bring hummus and a blanket and a bottle of red. And the clouds are bold and bright, California fades away, and my heart is full and light on this flight to JFK. If only just to see you for a day.
New York winter is cold, though honey, I run hotter most. Put your hand in my pocket if you need to get warm.
Scrabble in the afternoon, cook dinner, pasta with ricotta for two. Sit on the sofa by the fire while we weather the storm.
And the clouds are bold and bright, California fades away, and my heart is full and light on this flight to JFK. If only just to see you for a day. Saturday, stumble through the Guggenheim, talking funny accents off and on. Either way, it's nice to hold your hand in mine. It's not a cliche if it's in a song. You always find a way to sing along. You got a roll of film, oh honey, I got a night to kill. Let's go out in this town and make a little trouble. And the clouds are bold and bright,
California fades away, and my heart is full and light on this flight to JFK. If only just to see you for a day. We'll be fine by dusk, but I'm telling you, baby, these things eat at your bones and drive your young mind crazy. But when you place your head between my collar and jaw, I don't know much, but there's no weight at all. And I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't. 'Cause if I say I miss you, I know that you won't. But I miss you in the mornings when I see the sun. Something in the orange tells me we're not done. To you I'm just a man, to me you're all I am. Where the hell am I supposed to go? Poison myself again. Something in the orange tells me you're never coming home.
Was is Federal coming? Okay. She's perfect. No, I was just making sure we have any chairs. If she was, I was gonna have to grab a chair. Fast bridge. We can talk about it. I think Glenn's doing it.
Okay. Okay, ready to go? Okay, well, let's call the meeting to order. And pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
Yes. We have a resignation, and then let's put the resignation right under teacher retirement, under new business. And then the 6-month CD renewal. And
Where does that fall in? You want that up in financial reports? Or after that?
right after that, yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept the agenda.
Did the items that I had requested to add to the agenda get in there?
Yes.
Yep,
New
D.
business, D.
Okay,
Item
just
D.
right, thank you.
Okay, motion to approve agenda,
Second.
seconded, any discussion? Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. Go through the consent agenda. We'll try and move along a little quicker tonight because we've got a lot of some teacher reports and stuff to get to. So if I'm going too fast, just say, hold on, wait a minute, slow down. But so we got our minutes from last board meeting. And were there any corrections or additions? I did notice in there that the line about superintendent evaluations due in December, and I talked to Amber about that a little bit, and she said, well, that's what you guys said at the meeting,
Yep.
but they're actually due in November. right? So
Yes.
November 15th.
Yeah, teachers are due December 15th and superintendent is November 15th.
Right. But this is what was said in the meeting, so that's how the minutes are. Just to clarify that, I guess. Anyone have any other items on minutes? If not, we'll roll right into November board bills.
I guess a question on that one. The Vital Network, the 35,800, is that a one-time expense for that then, or what is
That
that?
is, that's the teacher retention and recruitment thing that we talked about last time.
Yeah.
And it's a full grant. So we get that back, we'll get reimbursed for that through DPI, and that's just a one-time payment for us, yeah.
Has that started for us then yet?
We had our first meeting, was it 2 Fridays ago during PD? Yeah, last PD. And then the teachers and staff completed a survey, and then that goes to Vital Network, and then they'll analyze the survey and then come back to us with suggestions on what we can try to do to help.
And that was a state-funded program then?
It's through a grant that goes through DPI. I'm not sure where the original grant came from, if it was
Okay.
state or federal.
Thanks.
How long does that program last?
All year.
Just 1 year?
Yep.
I didn't know if it was over a few years or just one.
There's a YouTube video out there I could share on it. Interesting.
I looked up the website,
Yeah.
just kind of familiar with it. Anything else on board bills? Anything else that needs to be
I guess I'm curious
answered or
on
pointed
the
out?
bus loans. Is it something that, I'm just kind of be curious what our rate is on that? Is it something where we should be, how are we better off spending our money? Are we better off with cash in the bank and savings and having a loan? Or are those loans something that there is an early payment option? It's not something maybe that we have to answer today, but I think it'd be interesting to take a look at those bus loans and assess them a little more.
I think we asked on it once before, the rates are fairly low on
Are
it.
they?
Yeah, because it was taken out a while ago. I don't think it was a recent thing,
Yeah,
where rates were fairly reasonable at the time, if I remember correctly.
Would the balance on those be under balance sheet, or where would we see that in our financials?
You wouldn't see
I don't
that
think that
anywhere
would
on
show
the balance, I would just have to pull the
Oh, okay.
schedule. I know the smaller, like the 746 one, that one will be paid off, I believe in June or July, so there's just a few more months on that. I think the other one, maybe a couple more years on it, that's for Big Blue.
And I'm pretty sure we were like sub 5% on it.
Yeah, I'm not 100%, but
I'm
I
fairly
think
certain
they're
I
fairly
remember.
low.
Yeah.
Thought we had that discussion before we renewed the CD last time. The CD was making more than
Right.
it was
Yeah.
that we were paying, so that's why we
Sure.
renewed the CD last time.
Any other questions? Board bills? Okay, if not, let's roll on to balance sheet. Any questions, concerns, comments on balance sheet? That looks pretty normal. Move on to revenue. Looks like everyone was holding off on paying their property tax until they saw the results in Measure 4. No one's paying that early. We're at 37.8% of revenue right now. What percent of the year are we through?
About a third.
A third?
Counting July, we're 4 months in.
Okay. If no questions, we'll roll on to expenditures. And I noticed comparing these two reports, our revenues versus expenditures were slightly positive for our budget this year.
Yep.
That's a play on. On 100?
Yes.
100,000. So, doing better than the federal government anyway. Any more questions or anything on expenditures? Let's go to student activity, and if anyone wants to jump back to something, notice or maybe just yell out. Okay, if there are any questions or comments on any of the consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Okay, we got a motion, we got a second.
Second.
Okay, motion second on consent agenda, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Let's talk about that 6-month CD renewal.
Yeah, our 6 months is up.
6 months, what would be the interest rate?
As of yesterday, it was 4.3%.
Oh. Yeah, I think we should, otherwise it sits and does nothing.
So my only question on that was if we decided to move forward bus-wise. I know that's down the agenda here, but is it something we have to put deposits down on, that kind of stuff, where we would need some of that, or is it something that's available?
We have some funds and savings.
Okay.
That we could use for those.
Okay.
So if we look back at balance sheet. And then am I right, Amber, column 8 or item 8? $500,000 CD and $496, that's some change in savings accounts.
Right.
So it's, guess you're gonna spend more than that.
Nope, just wanted to make sure. I would make a motion to renew the CD.
Okay, got a motion. Renew the CD.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Okay. And with that, we'll go into principal reports and however you guys wanna do teacher reports or on the order on the agenda.
We had parent-teacher conferences last week. I had 2 teachers that had to cancel and reschedule parent-teacher conferences due to illness. So my best guess at attendance right now is 91%. Mrs. Adamson is currently doing conferences right now. So if all of hers attend, we'll be at a 96% attendance for parent-teacher conferences. So that was pretty good. Mrs. Pretzer and Mrs. Christensen will do a Fast Bridge update after Dr. Vogel is done. We've been looking a lot at our math specifically and how we've been doing that. Our reading curriculum is new, so that's still, we're just in the process of getting familiar with all of that. For math, all of the teachers in Taylor are teaching every standard every quarter. So we're trying to see how that will help our scores and different things like that. And right now, we don't have the best data with Fast Bridge, so I'll let them kind of explain what they're doing with Fast Bridge and how we will be able to see that data and if that method of teaching math is working or not. Some updates. Today we had Amanda Olson from DPI visited the elementary school. She's the childhood nutrition specialist as well as the farm to school specialist. So she came out and visited with Mrs. Redka and Mrs. Ravinius on the greenhouse and gave them some more opportunities for grants and things like that. Ate lunch with us, had some of our greenhouse radishes. So she's also working with Paula on a grant through the state as well for a salad bar at Taylor as well. The 4th graders went to the brick company in Hebron. That was back in October, but Mrs. Adamson suggested to make a connection with what they learned at the brick company. So this week Mrs. Martin started clay in her classroom, so they're learning the process of actually making what they saw over there. So we'll see how those turns out. She did not make bricks, they're making something different, so hopefully. On Friday we'll be kicking off our Jump Rope for Heart with the American Heart Association. So that one hits a little close to home because Mrs. Mack's little boy, she gave me permission to share that he is a heart child, so she's pretty excited to be able to reintroduce that back. So the American Heart Association is sending a rep out on Friday to do a little kickoff with us, and then Cassie will run that program during gym class, so she's pretty excited about that. Also on Friday, talk to me about how I'm liking my job after Friday. We're gonna do our first bucket filling celebration because our TRE bucket is full. So the kids have been working really hard on respect and kindness and how we can portray that not only in school but outside of school. So we have a special guest coming on Friday to tell some stories, and we'll have some treats and stuff like that. And I'm not giving any more information in case they're listening. It's all a secret. They might hear me. So that's all I have aside from Fast Bridge update when Chelsea and Alicia share that.
Thank you.
Okay, so athletic report, she just wanted to let people know that there's 11 junior high girls out. Skylar Dressler is the coach. Junior high boys basketball and high school girls basketball starts November 18th, expecting about 15-ish boys out for 7th and 8th grade. Ron Luff and Chase Christensen are coaching. We are starting 1 month earlier this year. That is different from past years. That is scheduled just in case that they're able to roll over to a C squad. High school girls, expecting around 20 girls. Logan Miller is the head coach. Cassie Laura is the assistant. And high school boys basketball begins December 2nd. Carrie Dorman as head coach. Garrett Zent as assistant. And they're looking at numbers soon. They haven't had their meeting to kind of give us numbers. Conference percentage, we were at a 99%. We had our conferences a little bit earlier. We usually have it about a couple weeks before you guys. So those that had to reschedule already had their rescheduled conferences. And so the teachers worked really, really hard and put extra time in because We have to do it on different nights if it works good for parents, different things like that. So they did fantastic. We'll talk about CTE and math in a little bit. Drama club, Mrs. Tutterow was going to do a junior high play, and the kids and her decided they wanted to do a drama club instead. So with permission, with what would go towards that play, they're now doing a drama club throughout the whole year, and they're going to do a variety of different things, learning about plays, studying plays, watching plays, doing some fun nights, getting more involvement so that if they get enough people down the road, then we could do plays in that area. Career advisor wise, we want to make a change with job shadows and college visits. Right now we allow the juniors and seniors to go out for college visits and job shadows, and we are suggesting that we give them those days out excused sophomore, junior year instead of junior, senior year, so that they have better understanding and decisions what they want to do their senior year. And so I don't know if you guys have any comments on that or not, but we would like to push it 1 year up so that they're getting out and starting to see things. And even if they don't like something, we want them to be able to come back and say, I for sure don't want to go into that, you know, and not waste time. So some people think it's too soon. We think that the earlier they get out, the more they learn, the better decisions they're able to make and better conversations they're able to have with their families. So
My question on that then, why remove the senior? Why not all three?
well, they'll still get to.
Oh, okay.
They'll still get to go out, but we want to add excuse days their
Oh,
sophomore year.
so just add excuse sophomores, yes?
Yeah, we wanna start earlier. Yeah, but they'll still get to go, and that's part of it too, is they might go visit a couple colleges or a couple places to work and say, I wanna find something completely different, and we have to give them that time to do that. Just to make better decisions, and not waste time and money for people. So, other than that, been looking at some math patterns, and our math pattern started when we bought Reveal in 2021. And usually you have to give it a couple years to see how that's gonna go. I feel like we've given it a couple years. We've even included Glencoe last year, and with the 4-year trend, we've gone from a 42 to a 30 to a 16 to an 8% in 8th grade. And I think we're past just watching a pattern, so I have gone to Dr. Ziegler and asked to switch curriculum. And we still had, actually Mr. Isaac, where are you? Mr. Isaac, he's hiding there. And Mrs. Messer, Mrs. Laura Messer still had some Saxon math. And we always did very, very well on Saxon math because geometry is kind of involved into the curriculum through Saxon along with your algebra, but it's also an old form of mastery learning, such as you learn a process and you're constantly repeating it as you go. And so I'll let Mr. Weber and Mrs. Graham speak in a little bit, but I have talked to them and Mrs. Moore about going through Saxon for the rest of the year, from 6th grade through 8th grade plus algebra, because we have those books and we have everything that goes with it. We did have to order a couple resources. Company of Saxon has closed, obviously, and they are going to retire their curriculum in 2027. Mr. Ziegler already called and checked on that. But I felt with the 4-year trend that we were past waiting. And we had very good scores on Saxon. I did make some phone calls and we talked to a couple other districts, and some of them went back to Saxon, which was kind of reassurance that maybe some of the new curriculum that is being pushed maybe isn't necessarily a quick fix to anything, which we're not necessarily looking for. But we did have a meeting, Dr. Ziegler and Lindsay and I, and Lindsay also stated that there's a couple struggles with their curriculum about having to pull a lot. So our teachers are having to pull a lot of different information until the kids can reach the level that those other books were at. Saxon, literally what they can do is teach a process the first 10 to 15 minutes and have practice the rest of the period while the teacher is walking around the classroom and assisting with that, as we used to. And we'll have to push it pretty hard. The teachers are being really good sports. They really are, like very positive good sports. The trade-off is they don't have to go out and keep pulling all this stuff. It saves them a ton of time, but their time goes into grading, but that also means the kids are practicing more. So, I know we're on TV, but I will say Dr. Ziegler was a little quiet at first when I said I have a drastic change that I think we need to do, and I think he made a couple phone calls. I think there was some conversations between him and Jody also, but that's where we're at. And like I just want to stress that the teachers were awesome when I say, hey, I have this plan, I think we should just try it, because after 4 years, we've tried something else, and I don't feel like it's where we need to be. After that, after this year, we can reassess and decide, do we need to stay there? Do we need to add to it? Do we need to find something new? And go from there, since they're retiring, but we do have a little bit of time to kind of review.
And you said that was 2027?
Yeah,
And that was grade 6, 7, 8?
6, 7, 8 plus algebra, so we have 8th grade and 9th grade algebra, but they'll be using it in 8th grade, yeah.
And then what are the upper grades still using? Is that
They're using
The McGraw Hill.
the McGraw-Hill,
This is, yeah, they just don't call it Reveal.
but
But
they're,
it's the same.
it's the same company, but as the
as
Reveal,
you feel? Oh.
Yeah, they just
but they're
don't call it Reveal for
specialized
the high school.
classes. Go ahead.
Oh, but so then that's your trigonometry and your calculus?
Yeah, so there's still geometry,
Pre-calc.
algebra 2, pre-calc, calculus, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, they just don't stop calling it Reveal, even though it's the same kind of curriculum.
So are we seeing the same type of information on that with that program as well, or is it,
Score-wise?
yeah?
Actually, ours,
It's harder to tell because
Where's
they
our more-
only test them in 10th grade.
10th grade.
yeah,
So it's hard to tell because the heads kind of just fluctuate with the classes.
Sure.
But those ones haven't seen the constant drop that the
yeah,
8th
they
grade
haven't
did.
seen it.
And I
So-
think once they get that base, 7th through 9th grade, they get that base, the geometry, algebra 2 and pre-calc, it just builds on the base. They need that base, and that's where we're seeing that the kids are falling down, is the base information that they're not retaining when they take these tests or going into the next class.
So on that, do we have any, so the percentages you quoted that we've seen, was that on just ND Insights, or what, do we have any other assessments that we're using?
Well, our Fast Bridge we just started, our Renaissance Star, we didn't necessarily see the same thing.
The two didn't correlate?
Yes and no.
How about even just like classroom assessments, do we feel like, I guess the question I'm trying to get at is, do we feel that the data we're getting from the state is reflective of what we actually have going on? Or not? No.
Yes and no.
Some students, yes, some students no. Your high-performing students will perform high on the test.
Okay,
Then you have those in the middle that depends on the day. Some days they'll perform really well and the next day they won't. So the one specific day we give them the test, if it's a bad day for them, it's gonna be a bad test for them.
Yeah, well, and that's, I think a lot of it is also taking the test, I don't know if seriously is the right word.
Sure.
But having the kids buy into why it's important and why they need to do well. And a lot of schools are fighting this where students just go in and fill in the bubbles. You know, they're not even working on the problems. So we need to break that and try and get them to feel that it's important, and I think our scores will go up then.
well that, or I'd encourage it, let's get some more data, even
Yeah.
if that's
Well, and
quizzes,
that's
a
with,
daily,
yeah, with Fast Bridge, we'll get that data. Stars did show, I mean, even in Stars, it was below where we should be, but it wasn't as far below as what the state assessment shows. Talking to other superintendents, one of them for sure thinks that something was wrong with the state assessment, because they've always scored high. They win math competitions, and they still won math competitions last year, but they didn't have anybody proficient in 8th grade. So it's like, how are you winning these competitions, but yet no one's proficient? So they're thinking something was up with that state assessment too. But now this year, it's gonna be a completely different state assessment. It's changing, so,
So it's like starting over.
yep.
Well, and that's, again, I'd put less weight into the state assessment
Yeah.
as I would into our own district, our own knowledge. If you lean into that concept of is it the base, how do we build that base? I'm not so sure that Saxon, I get the point of make a change and try.
Yeah.
Saxon is very good at building the ability to do processes, but it lacks concepts. In a holistic study of different curriculums I was involved in Wyoming, that was glaring that Saxon, you learn route repetition, speed, it can be good for if that's your problem, you're slow but the actual concepts, not there. Students didn't understand why the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. Don't know why. Can process lots of, spit out the answers, but don't get why. So that's a big part is trying to get the data on it. This is tough.
Yeah, well, and that's where the test too, because the test doesn't ask you why, it just says, can you do it?
Yeah, fair enough, right? Yeah.
So, it's not a good thing.
But also to piggyback on that, after I found out we were going back to Saxon, I talked to a teacher that taught 8th grade math for 30 years, and she said that was the best curriculum that she's ever taught.
Sure.
So I guess it's all relative on, the information that, because everybody learns differently, right? So just because it's repetition and it's whatever, well, I mean, that's what a lot of it is anyway, it's just repetition. I mean, doing it over and over again.
Can help. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I just drive for the data that shows where our
Right.
problem is, because it can, if that's the problem, that really helps go after, but if it's not, then it might not.
Right.
And I know from an elementary standpoint, last year was very frustrating for, there were 2 of us that were doing the every standard every quarter, which essentially is what Saxon Math is. We're just doing it on our own right now, trying to use Reveal to piece it together. So looking at the data in Renaissance from last year, it was very frustrating when you print that data off and it's red, all you ever see is the red. And then as you got to 4th quarter, not allowing those kids to forget what they learned in 1st quarter, you could start seeing it. Now we're seeing the yellows, now we're seeing the green, that those kids are reaching that proficiency. And that was our district assessment. So Renaissance was our Star Math assessment, so that was more of a district assessment that we used quarterly to assess data. So somebody made that comment to me, maybe it was Russ, about the every standard every quarter is very relative to Saxon. That's what we're trying to get back to without knowing that's what we were trying to get back to. So
Spiraling of the
of
the curriculum.
So, who would you like to speak first, Fastbridge Math or CTE? Because we also have Mr. Isaac back there. Would you like to stay on Math and go to Fastbridge then CTE?
Let's stay on Math. Let's stay on Math.
Let's stay on Math.
On the topic.
Who would like to speak?
She is on the fast stuff.
For math-wise?
Go faster.
Yep. Oh, they wanted to stay on Math.
Oh, they stay on Math. Okay. What I have for you actually is, we're doing Fastbridge, and this, if you wanna have these around. This is just a report that shows where they started when we took the score at the beginning of the year. And on Fastbridge, we are able to monitor these kids bi-weekly, weekly, once a month. We can go in and monitor those kids to see if they're progressing or not progressing. So this is what it shows, a group of kids that I did. And they just took another progress monitoring last Friday. And this is some of the results, just showing if they're improving or not improving. And if you can see, all the arrows are going up, so they improve from beginning of the year through when I tested the other day. And they've done a couple tests in between there too. So we try to do it every 2 weeks. They get to go in and test. And then this will give us a report as to how much they're improving or if they're on track. Okay, the second page I gave you was to help with the Fastbridge, because Fastbridge looks at fluency and accuracy and stuff. So the kids, we just started this doing, it's called 9-9 Math. And it goes in and they get to practice fluency. Instead of counting with their fingers, they have to use their mind and put the information in. I can match it up with Fastbridge, where it'll do operations. I can set it up for do number sense, and that's kind of what Fastbridge looks like. So they can practice on here, which should improve their Fastbridge reports too. And this we just started a couple weeks ago. And the kids are actually really liking it. They're like, can we do it today? And it's like, no, you can't. You can't. But this one is, they were just doing multiplication. This was from my 7th grade class. They're doing multiplication the other day. They can do it on their own. They can compete against each other in class. They're quite competitive when they're competing in class. But it makes them think faster and do the processes, because they can flip from multiplying to dividing to adding. I watched some today where they were doing all 4 operations in one set. It could be multiplying, it could be dividing, it could be adding, subtracting. And so it gives them a little bit more of confidence to themselves that we can do this. So then when they go to FastBridge, they're a lot more confident in FastBridge. So these two things that we're working on in those classes, and it's a program I came across, it doesn't cost anything for the teachers to have it. Kids can do practice at home. I have some kids practicing at home at night. If they're like, okay, what aren't you very good in? You know, FastBridge says you need more number sense. So then they go into the number sense and they practice in there. And I use this in my title class also. So these are two different reports we can have to show if our kids are progressing or not.
What kind of, besides the FastBridge, because we'll talk about that later too, but for both of you, you've been switched to Saxon for about a week now, I think.
Lucas just
Close.
switched this week,
Oh, you
because
just
he had to
started
finish
this week.
something up
Right,
first.
so what kind of things have you seen with the Saxon going forward? I know I've talked to some students and they like it a lot better than the Reveal, but
I've talked to a couple too, and they like
The repetition.
but the focus.
they said that the questions are easier to understand, they're, yeah, so I don't know what you've seen.
Because, well, part of it is because it talks more in their terms. Some of the books that we've had, they're trying to teach them a concept using decimals and fractions right away instead of using whole numbers. Where they learn the concept and then they go to decimals and fractions instead of, so the concepts are there and then we repeat it every day a little bit. We keep adding onto it.
Yeah.
So that's where we keep building every day onto what we learned to start out with. And it'll do anything from, it'll do decimals, fractions, it gets into geometry. And it'll keep doing geometry all the way through, and we know that that's one of our low areas is geometry. So before I was doing, even before Christmas, I would do 1 week where we just did geometry. But now what we're doing in the Saxon book is the geometry I do before Christmas, they're starting it now, and it continues every day. They're gonna do a little bit of geometry. They're gonna do a little bit of fractions, they're gonna do a little bit of adding decimals, a little bit on money. Money is one thing that we didn't have in our other book, it didn't deal with adding up money. And so they do a little bit of that every day. So I actually started doing that with some of the classes I have that are not in Saxon, doing the same pattern repetition day after day. So they do maybe 1 or 2 problems each day. They learn a new concept, but then the next day they come back, they keep building on that. And so the ones I've started the last 3 or 4 days, it seems like they're doing better in their regular concepts as long as I keep that repetition going.
Is the current Saxon, what we're talking about here, the same as what we had 25 years ago? Right.
Updated version of it.
We're all here.
I think it's in 2017.
17, yeah.
And then 2000.
Was it still, Wayne, right? Saxon Wayne?
I taught
The
it.
author? Yeah, yeah.
I recall though, I remember when we were kind of phasing it out, that one of the biggest drawbacks with Saxon was you have to teach it in order.
Oh,
You
sure.
can't.
Yeah, you can't
And
just.
that's,
jump
you
around.
can't jump around,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest part when you're teaching those standards. If you're a 4th grade teacher, you have to go in that order, you can't flip, oh, I'm gonna go and teach this unit today. That's the biggest kickback with Saxon, I recall. And I even remember that in 1st grade too, you had to go, I loved it too, you know what I mean, I felt like kiddos knew their math in 1st grade, but you know, I don't know, there's pros and cons to every curriculum that you have. That's just one of the.
But I haven't noticed much of a difference yet, but I've only done a couple days of it.
Right.
And the stuff we've done is things like they absolutely know. Like it's not even, like, they all know it, so it was just review. Biggest thing I noticed, I looked at like the first 60 lessons, there's little no word problems. It is just computation, which is fine. But that's where the difference, like the McGraw Hill's definitely, I'm not saying successful at it, but it's trying to focus more towards the thinking about the problem. But the issue is that from somewhere from the late elementary to middle school, there's a gap where there isn't a base foundation. So they struggle trying to fill those gaps. That's what I've noticed the biggest struggle.
But I talked to some teachers too, and they said the reveal is more like an English assignment. So if you're a struggling reader, you're gonna have problems in
Which
math.
I don't think is good for lower grades,
Yeah.
because it's like, you're just trying to build those foundational knowledge.
Yeah.
Until you are at that level to
Yeah.
understand it.
And I think that's why you see more success
I
in
think
high
that's what
school
you
with
said too,
that
for sure.
curriculum
Right.
versus the younger grades.
And Lucas said that you're probably doing a couple a day, actually.
I probably will till I get about halfway through, I'll probably do
Yeah.
2 a day.
Yeah, if they already know it, I mean,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we did that today, we did 2 lessons in one, cause they'd already gone through it, the first part of the year. There's some lessons we can do together, cause it's just a review for them.
right.
Mr. Webb, tell me more about what your, some specifics about when you say base concepts.
Well, like,
What
so
are
so
those?
if you're learning, say we're talking about graphing linear functions, and students are struggling with multiplying something by a negative, or anything to do with negative numbers, or some of the fraction, you're going back to refocus on something that should be a foundational knowledge that they already have. And then it just keeps taking away from learning the new thing, because they keep having these little things in the way, which everyone makes little mistakes, but it's beyond that. It's where there's just struggling with these basic concepts that they need to learn the new stuff, so it just makes it harder and harder to learn the new stuff. They're always playing catch up. So I think this Saxon stuff definitely does hammer home that stuff. So I think that's where that can benefit.
Yeah.
Especially the computational stuff.
So is it fair to say that some of our problem might be scope and sequence of we get to, cause I heard we get to a spot and we hit a wall.
Maybe,
Are
but I
we
think
missing something in the
I think some
sequence?
of his things just change, like standards have changed, so things that might be taught in 3rd grade are now taught in 4th, so you have gaps. So there's just things that naturally get missed because they're always changing stuff. I think that's an issue too. And then these curriculums, they're trying to adjust and make things more focused towards critical thinking, deeper learning, those are the educational buzzwords. So they're trying to hit those so people buy their curriculum.
Right.
It's because it is fundamentally better to do that, but
Well, you hit on a bunch right there, so
But it's just-
commercialism is.
it's just, they just don't do a great job building towards that, because I think some of the questions they ask in the high school books are good, but it's just hard to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, and I think, as a former math teacher, I always didn't understand why they're trying to teach abstract ideas to students who don't have the ability for abstract thought.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be teaching algebra to 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders,
Right.
because they can't mentally grasp that.
Yeah.
But I think that's where a lot of those things are coming in too, the misses.
Yeah, build the foundation, build confidence.
Yeah.
The big picture question of all our teachers. I heard several times, standards change this, and how much control, do you guys feel empowered to determine what you teach yourselves? Or is it just, man, I better do these standards, that's all that's to it?
It's hard to say with math.
So you see, I'll get more specific, you see a problem like that of, hey, I don't have, this concept right here, I don't have it. I got my sophomores, they don't have this concept, they can't. Do you feel empowered to go back and teach it, even though you're outside your standards? Okay, we do. But how about just the content of your class, are we, whatever the state tells us, marching orders, away we go, are we there, or are we?
No, I do a lot of making sure they understand the basis of standards and stuff, so if I see there's something they're missing, I will go back and we will revisit that a number of times and we will drill hard on it. Even though it might not be a standard, I know that it's gonna affect them down the road to get to that standard. It's like, they need this before they can even do the
You're
standard.
just gonna keep running the same issue every year. Right, if you just ignore it, it becomes the same issue every single year.
Right, so I go back, I go teach other than standards to make sure they have that base.
I for one, as a board member, would support, hey, if we don't get to all the standards, but we did what's right for students,
Yeah, but we
I
just wanna
think
make sure
sometimes we-
with the standardized testing, those numbers look bad. And we just gotta make sure we find a way to get those up too, like, it's a crappy aspect of it, but it is something. We just gotta make sure that we find a way, and I think this would help with the standardized testing aspect. But,
Well, in a similar statement, I as board member would be more interested in seeing us do what's right for our students at their level, meet them and grow them, than I would be concerned about I'll stand up and testify if the test at the state level or whatever, a representative comes and asks me, how we doing? If we had district assessments and teacher data, like I said, even if it's quizzes that you just gave me today that showed improvement, whatever then on what the state says, right? I think it'll take care of itself when we have the right curriculum and scope and sequence, right? But I would like to say that empowering the teacher to make those decisions is of higher value than a score on a website, in my opinion.
So I have a question. So at the strategic meeting plan, when you were talking about math and you're talking about the scores, maybe I misunderstood, but when he looked at it, he told us that our math scores really weren't that bad, but there was a subsection that was low, and that was bringing our overall math score down.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess I'm confused when you're saying our math scores aren't good, but he said he looked at it in 2 seconds, he could tell they're really not that bad. We just have one section of students who we need to build upon, and that's what's bringing our overall score down.
I don't think he looked at it well enough, honestly, because when you look at it, in 8th grade, I think we had 1, 2 proficient, and one of those is actually one of the subgroups that he said is bringing it down. So
And that one was very high.
yeah, so I think it's more of a systemic thing than a group of people. The group of people that he thought was bringing it down, we only at the high school we have 3 kids.
Oh.
In different grades.
In that area,
In different grades.
In different grades.
Not just in 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
So that subgroup isn't gonna bring our test scores down that much. I think at Taylor you have 2, 1. Okay.
So do you wanna go on to fast bridge and explain what that is? Since we were talking about it.
Okay, so are you all familiar with Fastbridge, the overview of it? I printed, you guys are familiar with that. I didn't know for sure, I have a printed off, basically. What an overview of what Fastbridge is, so basically.
I'm not gonna claim to know it all.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'll be quick.
No, that's not what I mean, that's not what I mean, get us to know it.
So basically, it's replaced our stars. So we've moved into, so basically then we have a screening. It's a universal screener, so we use it 3 times a year. So we used it this beginning of the fall, and I believe we now changed it to January, and then again at the end of hopefully April-ish again. So universal screener, so that's really key, that all kids it's reliable, valid data that we're doing that. Alicia and I conducted all of the testing K through 4th at the beginning, but we're just starting to implement it into the teachers, so the teachers will be able to help us this next go around with their individual classrooms.
I was just gonna say, it's threefold, it's testing math
Yeah.
and English and reading skills as well as SEL.
Yeah, our
Social emotional
behavior, yeah. And I don't know if Sarah has
been utilized, but
done that for counseling when she goes in, I'm not too sure, she had talked about it.
The class,
Not yet, okay.
some of the classroom, 2 of our classroom teachers in Taylor just did it on their.
Oh,
Like if it's
perfect.
cause they can do the computer-based one.
Mhm.
It's like I know 4th grade did theirs, and I think Mrs. Max might have done
That's right,
SEL
I
for
do
her too.
remember that.
okay.
So it does have that component to it too, which is great. So basically then right away, so then we are able to identify immediately what students are at risk, some risk, and are on track. It breaks it down into those 3 categories. Then that's where Mrs. Pratzer and at that high school level, Mrs. T, Mrs. Graham, then we're able to break into our interventions. What we're doing in the elementary part is we have decided that we have a lot of the 3 tiers. So your tier 1 would be your ones that are on track. Tier 2 they're kind of, I consider those my bubble kids. Alright, so they're needing a little bit more they could go either way, you know, you wanna monitor those students, and then you have those tier threes, those at risk. And that's who Alicia and I are taking for interventions now. I'm strictly doing all of reading all day long. I have a 30-minute lunch break and that's it. I have interventions all day, and then Alicia.
I'm the same with math. I'm probably 2/3 math interventions and 1/3 music maybe,
Right.
or take.
So we're pretty full all day long.
All day long with short lunch.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So
Tell me more about that. What does it look like? Is it a one-on-one student?
Oh, for testing, assessing?
No, the intervention.
Oh, alright, so it kinda depends on.
It depends on the student and how severe the need or intervention needs to be. Sometimes we're pulling, I have a couple students I pull individually, and work with them just because they need that eye contact and, you know, intense help. And others, we pull in small groups of, I don't know, I think my largest small group is 4 students.
Yeah, my largest is 5 this year, and that's been rare. I've taken, but we've really zoned in on trying to get smaller. I do take a few individuals. I do 2, 3, 4 and 5. I have one group of 5, and that's it. So we're really trying to intervene on those at-risk kids, trying to get them pulled up. Try to really target K1. K1 is really big with reading. If you don't get those kiddos by the end of 1st grade, we all know that statistics and research shows even by first, yeah.
And you two are just working K through 4?
Yes, yeah.
And so what's your student load?
I'm servicing 48 students.
40.
I didn't count that up. Yeah. I don't know.
Take a guess.
Yeah. 22 maybe, something like that. So.
And so we do see tier 2 and 2-3, not as many tier 2s. So that's why we're pushing. We're going to show the teachers actually tomorrow morning. We're going to meet and show the teachers. The next step then is you go into your progress monitoring, and that's a tool that is really nice with FastBridge. That's what it's all about. We've been missing that key component for interventions, that progress monitoring. We've been doing it, you just don't have the data to back it up, if that makes sense. So now it's really nice, we have those data points. When your student isn't making those gains, you go back and you look at yourself and say, why isn't this working? There's a lot of different reasons. Maybe your intervention isn't working, maybe they need something more strategic put in place for them, and you gotta revamp what you're giving them. Or maybe it's not enough time, which is the biggest factor, is the time aspect. But so that's where that progress monitoring piece is. And then that allows us to go to the next step. You know, is it that student not learning? Is there some learning disability? What other factors are we playing for that lets us bring that, to have that piece to our West River services? They like to have that documentation too, so that only helps our case too. The biggest downfall that I thought would be is that they have interventions for you to use for the students. But I don't know, maybe I'm just been around the block. I knew them all.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, this is so exciting. They're gonna give me new ones on comprehension.
Right.
That was the biggest letdown, but it makes you feel good that we're doing those things and the teachers are all doing those interventions. It's just now we have it all on the computer and it's all nice laid out. You know, there's pros and cons, and I do miss stars too, and you know, there's something new all the time, so it's a learning process too for us. Mrs. Pretzer and I have a few more gray hairs because of it.
We're hoping to start tomorrow to help our teachers get started with looking at the data and deciding which the bubble group that Chelsea said earlier, which group might need a closer watch, and to help our teachers learn how to set some of those groups up so that we're progress monitoring those students with the interventions that teachers are already doing in the classroom, but it'll give us a closer watch to see, are we making progress in the right direction, or do we need extra help so that before they slip down to that tier 3, you know, we can catch them at where they are. So it's a work in progress, but we're making small steps.
Well, that's what Chelsea was saying, they're doing most of the interventions already, but we didn't have a method to show, are the interventions working? So that's what this is giving us, but it does take time.
It's time.
You said that several times, I wrote down, you said time is the biggest factor. Tell us more about it. What, do you feel like you don't have enough time with each student, not enough resources, not enough people? What's the?
It's a lot with.
At the beginning of the year, just getting familiar with the program and being able to utilize it. And how does it work with this student, and then how do we read the data, and what does, you know, I mean, it's just all those little pieces and steps that come with the first use of a program. So some of that is just getting familiar with it, but then, you know, every kid always needs a few more minutes of
And it is time
practice
for
or,
those
you know.
those kids that are at risk. They do need 30 to 60 minutes additional time if you really want to see different.
30, 60 minutes per week, per day?
Student,
per
day.
Per student per day.
That's what research states,
That's what
that
it
you
shows.
should at least 60, sometimes 60 to 90.
Yeah,
Depending on the intensity.
there just aren't that many
But
minutes in a
I
day.
know,
So when do you fit that in?
I don't know.
Sometimes we don't.
You know, you just do the best you can, you know what I mean? You pull, the teachers are so flexible, and we pull.
But how do you fit it in right now? I mean, right now when you do the students, I assume they come out of the classroom and go for some intervention
right now
and then
it's
go
a
back to the
pull-out.
classroom after,
20
what,
to 30.
Usually
30
20
minutes?
about
to
20
30
minutes,
So
20 to
that they're
30
back in the
minutes
classroom
after.
time.
How often a week?
Every day
You know,
almost.
4 times a week, sometimes 5, depending on the group.
And we scheduled that around so that when they are pulling, they are not missing core in the classroom.
Right.
Because they also need the core in the classroom, so their pull-out times are scheduled around each teacher's core instruction, so they're not missing those pieces either.
And then the opposite side of that, which is unfortunate too, though, is they are missing other things.
Yep.
You know, whether it be art, music, PE, whatever it may be, then they're gonna miss that time.
Sometimes we do also push in to
Right.
classrooms in some cases where there's a large amount of tier 2 students. I push in a couple times during a couple days a week where I am in a classroom where I help assist with a bigger group of students on a reading skill or a math skill, you know, just as in an effort to sort of give help to a larger group.
Which one's more effective, pull out or the push in?
For tier 2, I like pushing in because I get to help a variety and see the progress. I know you're doing fine, so I can concentrate over here. For tier 3, in my opinion, it has to be a small group pull out one-on-one.
And that is where the smaller groups come in, like you heard Chelsea say, that's rare, group of 5 is rare. So in the past, we've always tried to pull tier 2 and tier 3, but that's not the way that it's supposed to be done. And so then when you look at Fast Bridge, there's no way. There's absolutely no way that these two can pull tier 2 and tier 3. So that's why we're trying to get those tier 2 interventions in the classroom, which are happening, we just want to monitor them now.
I'm glad you do it. I don't know how you do it, but I'm glad you do it.
Oh, I love it.
This
Fast Bridge, I go crazy, I don't know. I'm gonna hang it around for Friday.
She might change her
At our ACTC meeting last week, we had called both the principals. And the superintendent down ahead in there, they're using a Mira, is that what it is? AI for reading, and he said it's really, and I don't know nothing about it. But put
They
these
like
two on and he said it's working really good.
Heard good things about it.
Yeah, so AI is not replacing teachers, but helping. So maybe there's some help in the future with that.
I got some emails out But that question is specific, cause I want to know if it's going to help title specific, classroom specific, like what can it be utilized for, so I haven't heard anything back on that yet.
Is Fastbridge or what, is it showing any trends of our, excuse me, of our classes through time? Or do we have a feel of that, of saying that, well, compared to past 3 years, we're seeing more students that are needing intervention, less constant? Or do we have like, all right, we can say that,
Trajectory.
any of that?
We've only tested once,
Yeah.
so we don't have the data.
Do we have
to see
any
that.
other metric of knowing that, like as a district, where we're trending as far as?
No,
needs
and
or-
a lot of it too, you have kindergartners that come in and you see a big difference of exposure, basically is what it comes down to. If students that are exposed to variety of things, I'm saying academic wise, and then you have the ones that are not. And that's where you're playing catch up. You have those group of, say, 5, and then that's where you're always playing catch up, so you're trying to get them caught up to that rest of, that already know their ABCs, the sounds, they're ready to rock and roll. Let's start the reading process, and kindergarten was where you're at now. And then you're just constantly going to first grade, and then you have those ones that are reading chapter books, and it just is a common, same with math facts, same kind of concept there,
So is there a lot of, each year, see what we got and make adjustments and try to, or can we predict, like, you could say for the 25, 26 year, we expect this? Or is it gonna be another, see what we got and deal with it? Or do we do something?
We can
Something
use
like
the
that.
spring assessment to
Yeah.
kind of see how to plan for the fall, so it's not like a start over. And if we do that effectively, it would save us time, but you do have to take into the fact that some students do things over the summer academically and some don't and then lose a little bit. So you do still have to adjust it, but it wouldn't be like a complete start over, if that makes sense.
Well, I think we get a good idea in kindergarten too by the number of kids in preschool.
Yeah, that's,
Sometimes.
Yeah, not necessarily.
True too,
So
yeah.
what is it? What is the number? Is it pretty close, preschool to kindergarten, or are there a lot of kids not going to preschool?
This year in my research was the total opposite. Like Mrs. Healy said, normally the majority of her kids have been in preschool and minimal that were not, and this year is completely opposite. Like there were, help me Bonnie, 10 new,
that weren't in preschool last year.
That we're
plus
not.
we had new
She's
ones
got
that come
24
in.
her class, so that's a big,
That's
huge.
That's a big number.
Plus we had several new that maybe attended preschool elsewhere, so they were coming into us new, we had no clue, where they left off at, where they came from for preschool, so.
I'll be quiet.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
welcome.
Gonna go on to CTE?
Well, I tried my, I got a exhilarating PowerPoint for you.
Oh.
But I tried it yesterday, but I don't know if this works. Is this SP library in here?
No, let me disconnect.
Thank you.
SB conference room, it should be.
Go for it.
Mine's not finding it right now. Windows 8, right?
Yeah.
It should show up over here.
Yeah, it should.
It worked yesterday.
You have a little button in the bottom right-hand corner for trajectory.
Maybe find other place for places. Should we all?
No.
I think Adam's next door, right?
Yeah.
Is he still here?
Yeah, I guess so.
Alright, well, I'll pass out some
more homework for you then.
I was
But Ross was on there first.
hoping to,
So I don't know.
I'm gonna summarize some of this stuff when we talk, when I pass it down.
Okay.
One there, and pass it down, and then I got a couple extra if anybody wants them. I'll just say it. And I can print out more if anybody wants them. And I can start without the PowerPoint. So, I requested some time today to talk about what I do in my classes because at a strategic planning committee meeting, there was a comment that said, we still can't figure out how to get kids to the Dickinson CTE place. And in my head, I said, I didn't know we were trying. So I thought about who's on the board here, and you know, if a decision like that is made in whatever capacity, you guys would be the ones to make it. So I wanted to make sure you all know what I do. I think Jody's got a good idea because he was on our CTE advisory committee meeting forever, probably for a long time. He's listened to me spiel about my stuff for the last several years, and I was gonna mention that later, but so I don't forget, we will have an advisory committee meeting coming up in the next month sometime. Everybody is welcome to attend if you wanna learn more about what I do, what Mrs. Dorman does in business and marketing, and what Mrs. Mason is doing with career advising. The advisory committee meeting is made up of teachers, students give reports, and community members that are either involved in the field or parents of students or somebody else that has interest in it. And it's a requirement from the state for us to meet our funding. But I'm hoping, we've gotten benefits out of it too in the past, so.
Real quick, when you decide when that's gonna happen, can you email us?
I will email the school board group.
Yep.
It'll probably be in the next month on some evening.
Thank you.
I'll send it. Okay, so I have some things on this handout here that I'd like to quickly go over. I'll probably try to do it fast. So. But there were some headings. What is taught? Why is it taught? What are the benefits of it being taught here? And what do the students think? So I'm going to start with why is it taught? If I go back to when the school started, well, first of all, we're a CTE, a state-funded CTE program. That means we get funding for equipment and funding that funds a portion of my salary, depending on the classes I teach, which are approved through my supervisor at the state. This past summer, I applied to expand our programs, and we were getting probably, I don't know exactly, maybe 75% of the classes I teach funded. This past summer, I applied, and now every class I teach is funded. So it doesn't fully cover my salary, but it's a portion, maybe 28% or somewhere around there, depending. The history of the school year, when the school first opened, we had shop classes. Shop basically meant hands-on instruction. In the 70s, that kind of became known as industrial arts. Here, industrial arts classes meant using tools to design and fabricate a project, so there was design involved. Related job field, or related educational field was vocational education, which meant learning technical skills required to complete a specific job. So they both use tools. One is more design aspect, one is more skilled trade. You start to see these shop classes split apart into different fields. In the 90s, approximately, industrial arts became known as technology education. Technology education is applying knowledge and processes when using tools and materials to change the physical world. And that came about probably because of the increased adoption of computerized tools. Drafting, there was no longer hand drafting, it was computerized drafting, there were CNC machines. So you started getting more and more advanced tools in that aspect. Currently it's known as technology and engineering education. So engineering got thrown into it. That, my definition, is creatively and critically applying science and math to innovate and design solutions to problems. And that's my opinion, but I'm a professional engineer, so. A related CTE program is trade, industry, and technical education, which is preparing for careers in a variety of trades, such as construction, plumbing, electrical, welding, hands-on type trades. So simply stated, the definitions are, for me, technology and engineering is problem solving with tools, and trade, industry, and technical education is learning a skilled trade. Oh, you guys are following along. All right, the focus of the current program here, the previous instructor, Mr. Rowetter, many of you know, was grandfathered in kind of through all these changes through the years, because he was here for 41 years. So he kind of got to keep doing what he thought was good and changed when he thought appropriate. I don't have a teaching, well, I have an alternative teaching license, but I didn't go to school. I don't have a teaching degree. So when I got my teaching job here, I was licensed to teach all jobs that were based on engineering. So there were production type jobs that I didn't get added to my teaching license, like wood production, metal production, commonly known when I was in school as woodworking and welding. Those classes I couldn't specifically teach anymore. But they're important, I think. What I did is I kind of meshed some of the projects. Our semester-long welding class became a quarter-long welding project in a manufacturing class. So we still do it. It's reduced a little bit, we still do it. Woodworking got thrown into construction. I do my best to mesh kind of the programs of tech and engineering and trade and industry and technical education, because we don't have someone here teaching trade, industry, and technical education. So if I focused, a previous state superintendent was really intent, it seemed like, on just developing engineers. Well, not everybody is going to be an engineer. You have all these people that are kids that are technicians or more interested in hands-on problem solving. We don't leave these out in the cold because we don't have that specific here. So I try to mesh both of them together. And I think that's a benefit to both sets of kids, because if you have kids that are more inclined to think critically and problem solve, they're then introduced to skilled trades. If you got kids that are more inclined just to do a hands-on thing, then they're kind of pushed to problem solve and critically think because they're both in all the classes. For example, the other day we replaced some of my power cords on my grinders for the metal shop. And we watched the video, figure out how to do it. And I had a kid that is extremely good at critical thinking and problem solving, and he didn't want to touch the thing because he thought he was going to break it. So he's like, can I get someone else to help me that's more hands-on? Well, he kind of got into it a little bit because we did it in that class. I had another student that dove right in because he does hands-on stuff. But he didn't really think about what he was doing, and before he knew it, he took a bunch of screws out that didn't really affect accessing the switch. So think about it, and you only have to take this screw out over here to access the switch. So I think I try to, see what the kids are lacking and try to bolster them in those ways. My early classes, 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, are focused more on developing critical thinking and problem solving skills. When they produce smaller objects, they use like popsicle sticks, hot glue, bandsaw, drill press, some of the smaller tools, 3D printer. When the juniors and seniors come, they apply the critical thinking and problem solving skills they had been learning in those younger grades and start working on more advanced projects where they use welding, CNC machines, table saws, they mix concrete. So it becomes more real world applicable in that, but they still are problem solving. So that's kind of a little background on why we don't have a welding class here. I heard one time last year someone said, well, you guys don't have a welding class. And I was like, well, we do it. I can't call it a welding class. So that's why, and that's how I try to incorporate some of these things. So, any questions so far? Probably not. Okay, so what is taught? I kind of explained why I teach things, so what is taught? There's a table on here you can read through, but I thought maybe you'd rather see it. So I made a PowerPoint of it for you to look through, and hopefully this thing works. It's not working. Hold on. Where's that? Okay, there it goes. Okay, so 8th grade class is applying technology, so basically this is my first class. It's basically to introduce them to tech and engineering classes. They learn concepts and then they follow instructions to make fun hands-on projects. There's an example of some instructions where they make things like this. They make a water rocket on the far right there that shoots in the air. After they learn about forces of lift and drag and that type of thing. After they learn about buoyancy and density of air, they make a hot air balloon. They learn how to sketch on a computer-aided drafting program, which is down in the left-hand corner. One of the students last year made a full set of chess pieces and then they can 3D print it on the 3D printer. And we learned about construction and they made a construction project and those girls got kind of architecturally involved there. So 8th grade is basically to get them interested in the class. Foundations of Technology is the only required class that I have for one semester. And the goal of that is to teach kids a problem-solving process. And this is the one that they use. It's called the engineering design process. There's multiple versions of this. If you go out and look, it's an educational thing. I'd never heard of it until I started teaching engineering, even though I did engineering for a long time. But it makes sense to me because it gives them steps to go through when they have a problem to solve. And instead of following instructions to make a project, they have to design their own. So on the left, you see the kids designed a marshmallow launcher that tries to launch marshmallows into a hoop. And on the right, they have a balsa wood crane that they had to do some calculations with and to try to support the most weight. So there's pictures of some of those projects in action. So they're not really given instructions to do things, they're given goals and limitations to try to meet those things. Now that they've learned a problem-solving process, when they go to 10th grade, they get a lot of practice with a lot of problem-solving things. So on the left, there's a rubber band car that they're given a random group of materials and they have to figure out how to make an axle turn with a rubber band. On the right is a CO2 car. They're given a block of wood. As you see the one down on the bottom right hand, and they shape it and however they like and design it. So you put a CO2 cartridge in the back and shoot it down a track, and so you can get the fastest or the best design. There's other things, some random other ones we do there. There's a bigger thing, and here's a few of those projects in action. I think we're a little excited. It's competition. Then we get to the junior senior level classes. We have ADA construction. ADA stands for Advanced Design Applications. So it's design based. This is meant to be a 1 quarter class, and then you go to another thing, 2nd quarter. We do woodworking 2nd quarter using applications of construction. So there you see some kids on the top. We learn about construction processes. So I guess on the bottom picture first, they decide the best use of a piece of land for some benefit, and that one was a community interaction focus. They also do things that are focused on improving the infrastructure. They learn how to do some surveying. They got some math involved there, and then they take construction, some of those applications of construction, and they come up with a woodworking project they want to make. So they do steps of construction. Like the first step would be design. So some of them do a computer model. Some of them do it on paper. Then they also have to do a cost estimate, a schedule, project schedule, figure out the tools they're going to use. It's kind of like mobilization of a construction project. So there's some of their paperwork they do, and then they get to do the fun stuff where they get to work with the tools and make stuff. And it's very personalized. They pick their own projects for the vast majority of the time, unless we have some kid that doesn't know what he wants to do. I have some suggestions. Some stuff. We have a manufacturing class, which is meant to be a quarter and go on something else, but we do manufacturing and then we do welding in the second half because it's a process. Typically manufacturing, the kind of the concepts they learn is try to figure out an efficient assembly process. They learn about QC and QA, or quality assurance, quality control, doing different types of projects. And then they get to play with hot stuff. So there's welding on the top left and bottom right. There's a hand plasma cutter on the bottom left. cutting on the top right. Various things in a metal shop. He's pouring metal, melted metal in the middle. One cool thing happened in this class a couple years ago. Well, a lot of cool things happened, but I had 7 of my 9 students were girls in this class.
So we had to buy pink helmets.
Yeah, we didn't have to, but
We did.
we got a donation from the wind company, and I thought it was relevant that we should get the girls some
Absolutely.
pink helmets. So we got, and actually the guys like
I was
wearing
gonna
them.
say, I bet they did too.
So these girls, they asked them why, you know, I'm glad you're here, but why'd you come? And they said, we want to learn something new. Okay, I don't know if we didn't do that here, I don't know if they would bother seeking out that opportunity somewhere else. And here's a couple, sometimes it went pretty good. If you, the one on the left, they're trying stick welding for the first time. And a cool thing was what she says, I don't know if you can hear it on the volume, but she says,
I'm scared.
so every one of these girls, at some point in the time, I could tell they were hesitant or nervous to try something, but they all did it. And sometimes it didn't go so well, but those are the fun times.
I've all been there. Never stick welding, you've been there.
We have a class ATA, stands for Advanced Technological Applications, just the fancy words, I guess, but we learn about agriculture and medical tools. In the agriculture section, which is a quarter long, they build an environment and grow some plants in some different ways. So they take some cuttings, they try to automate some of the processes like the lighting. The group on the left tried to automate their watering too. That didn't really go so well, but they tried. On the right, they mix up some hormones in a petri dish with a growth hormone and take little tiny cuttings and put it in a petri dish and try growing stuff that way. The medical side of it, they learn how to use and how real medical tools function. Some of the simpler ones like the sphygmomanometer on the left, or blood pressure cuff, I guess. And then they also have a project where they try to make a circulatory system model using a water pump and a bunch of hose. And then they try to have a mock heart surgery where I shove a washer in there that's got a small hole, so it's got blockage, and they have to either remove or bypass the blockage. And they're going to try this on the far right up there. I'm not sure I want. These are both cutter. But it's problem solving. They're not given a method of how to do it. They got to come up with some methods on what might work. So, I got my slide got a little messed up here. So, engineering design class, we learn about some basic concepts of engineering. They use advanced calculations of something. So that's what's covered up, unfortunately, on the left there. An advanced calculation of a concrete beam, actually, because I did that. And then you can learn how to automate those calculations in a spreadsheet to help it. On the left, he is making a concrete beam in a mold, which you can't see. And on the right, then we break them. We did that, something I did in college. I have a UND professor that's come here many times, several times. He says he's never seen high school do that before. So, there's a hidden on the left. There's calculations for a suspension bridge, because they then, after the first quarter, they take the second quarter and they pick one project called Do-It-Yourself Engineering, and it's a pretty substantial project. So this group designed a suspension bridge. They followed a pattern, but it was changed. So I made it wider than the original one. So all their calculations changed. They had to do all the calculations. They had to build it. They had to learn to use the tools to build it. And then they test it. And so sometimes they're a little nervous about testing because they don't know how it's going to go. Like Braden, he's a little nervous. But it held 8 people later, so. Here is a trebuchet that was designed, modeled after a very small version, so they had to do some calculations on the right to, with the different dimensions. And sometimes the tests don't go so well, and you won't see it on this one, but they launch it, but the ball actually, it goes backwards instead of forwards, so. So you have some failures. But then you have some wins too. They're not so sure how it's going to go. And this was a concrete sailboat. It's actually my showcase down in the hall. They made a spreadsheet. They had to calculate how big to make this sailboat, the hull, so it wasn't too heavy that it would sink, or so, but that it was strong enough to not collapse. And they got a little excited because they worked on this a long time to see if it would float. And then they were and to top it off, we went to the Abbey Dam and floated out on the Abbey Dam. We just unfortunately didn't have any wind once we got the sail on it to go anywhere. It just, but it floated nice out there. So. This is where this picture is supposed to be. There's some calculations for a rocket engine. These students made rockets on, and then their own box, their electric launch box. Sometimes it doesn't work. Come on! And then you figure out what's wrong, and then they can fix it, and then sometimes it does work. Whoa! So they got pretty excited when I went up there. And this is one more. This is calculations for a beam bridge on the right, and those are pretty nice, clean looking calcs. I mean, these are several pages long. That's just one page of it. So then they decide how big to make their I-beam, and then they load it, and it's supposed to hold, I think, 6 or 7 people, but it loaded them fine, but sometimes they want something to fail. So.
If you all try to huddle towards the center, it might break.
They wanted to try to break it. So there's a picture of a lot of the unique projects that we've done, and there's some other ones too, some of them that weren't so successful, but the blimp is also on there, and a golf ball launcher, and a water turbine on the top left. So that's the engineering class. And robotics class, we do like 1/4 of electronics. So we use snap circuits on the top left, which is very easily, you can build a circuit real fast without having to search in a breadboard for the correct hole that you're plugging something in or solder or anything. But then we did some real world wiring down on the left. That's when they were replacing some of my cords the other day out of an old sander. And they go from that, and then they, what's on the top middle there is an Arduino microcontroller. And we just went down to Signum and toured that place, and he knew all about it, so I probably know about it too. So they kind of work their way from a very basic circuit up to a microcontroller, up to some robots. There's a little robot that travels around in the bottom center and a robotic arm on the right. Then they learn to program those things, and then they get to the second quarter, and they've taken that programming practice, and they start doing CNC stuff. So on the top left is a little milling machine. It's a very old one, actually. It was on rotation when I was here. I don't know if you did remembered it. But Mr. Rober bought one at one time, and I had a student build our plasma cutter last year. And he did this first, and I said, you think I should have kids use this first before they do that? And he said, absolutely, because you learn basically what it's trying to accomplish before you get to all the nice user-friendly stuff, like that program on the top right.
Also, so on the builder machine, they're actually writing in code line by line.
Line by line, every XYZ coordinate that the thing goes on, they have to enter it. And you don't do that when you make that one on the top right. You draw a path and it kind of follows around. So you understand what the more advanced things are doing when you do the basics. Bottom left is some of the projects that they've done. There's that Case IH thing is stick a vinyl cutter. We now have a vinyl printer and cutter, so we can print our own stickers and cut them out to whatever shape once I get it going. It's not going yet. Bottom right is a laser engraver. And then here's our cutter in action. Seniors who have done several classes with me and can't fit another one into their schedule because they've taken too many or they don't want to do some other class, I'll work with them and we can do a cooperative learning experience, cooperative educational experience, maybe that's a better correct term. And they kind of are my assistant. And I give them a big project and they often kind of work on their own. So Cody here on the left, he's the one that started putting the plasma cutter together, and he was very good at welding. So he helped me teach the group of girls, because I don't know if maybe one of them had experience welding, so he was pretty good at helping me do that. Logan last year, Kessel did it first and second period. He finished a bunch of boot racks that never got finished the year before for the Taylor School on the left, and then he started trying to fix some of my equipment or prep it for use on the right. And he finished the plasma cover, and then he wrote instructions for the kids to use, and then he helped make a project for a sign in the shop back there. This is something that I'm going to take a class on here, do some training here in the next couple months. I did this assisted with kids. What it's intended to be is a work-like experience where in the CTE field. So kids could have went to Amber Waves and they could have worked with an engineer there, and I could have did that. But they wanted to do stuff here, so their job was an unpaid assistantship through me is kind of how it worked. But what this training I'm going to do is so that kids, not just in tech and engineering, but in any CTE field, will be able to go do that in the community, and I coordinate with the employer to do some progress checking and stuff. So if kids want to do some welding at Amber Waves or go out to the health center and be a CNA, I think from my understanding they'll be able to do that, and I'll just be like a coordinator in between.
And right now it's been limited only to the engineering because that's his specialty. So taking the class opens that up to all those areas.
Yeah. And there's 8 or 9 different CTE areas in the state. So, and then this is one other class I have. It's just a short lunch hour class where they pick videos and we watch. You can't really do a lot of project work in 25 minutes, so they pick their own videos and we watch them, and it's a variety of concepts. So there's just last week they learned about some of these different concepts up there. Those are all screenshots from the videos we watched. So it's a variety of things that they're interested in. And that's my slideshow, what we do. Am I out of time yet?
It's up to you.
It's up to the board.
It's very interesting. Okay. What are the benefits of doing this here? That's my next thing. And I thought this was gonna be short, but I kept thinking of good things. But I'll try to speed through it. I think the program focus, how I focus it, I don't know if mission or vision or whatever those statements are the best, but I use focus that I try to merge tech and engineering, problem solving stuff with hands-on skills. I think it benefits a lot of kids. More people will go into this than if we would just have a focused tech and engineering only problem solving stuff. If we only had a welding teacher here, you get more kids in there, and it benefits them too because they learn different stuff that's just not specifically what they're interested in. It expands their adaptability in the event of a career change. So if you just learn one trade in high school and then you decide to change your career, you don't have background of problem solving or doing different things. I'm currently on career number 4. So I saw online sources that said people change careers 5 to 7 times. So I think a well-rounded education at this age is beneficial. the strategic planning committee meetings, we talked about 11 desired characteristics. Well, we talked about desired characteristics of a graduate. We came up with 11 at the beginning, if I remember correctly. And that list included problem solving, critical thinking, and technical skills, all of which are paramount to the classes I teach. And when we narrowed it down to 5, problem solving and critical thinking got combined into 1. So apparently our community thinks that those 2 things, which are a focus of tech and engineering, are very important for a graduate. Other benefits, the breadth of the variety of classes we teach. Students can take my classes. Actually, I have one this year that will get all of these things in 1 year. He will get introduced in construction, woodworking, manufacturing, welding, engineering, electronics, robotics, agriculture, and medical technology. If you had focused on one of those things, it would be so much. One of my goals is personalized learning. I try to maximize student engagement by providing personalized learning options. In all of those junior, senior level classes, there is a focus of mine to have them do something they're interested in. For example, that engineering design class, there's 19 different options they can choose for a project. In robotics engineering right now, students are deciding on 11 different CNC or robot projects that they want to work on, whichever ones they want to do. The construction class, their workbooking project is completely whatever their imagination can come up with. They have choice when we do manufacturing. When we get to the last month or so, they can do a wire welding project. I want them to try stick welding. You know, the ones, some of them don't go so good, but they can get practice in that. They can do oxyacetylene welding. We can do TIG welding, although I've never done it. They can work on a CNC machine. So there are a lot of options. The video class, I have a library of 650 different videos that they can pick their own. And the upper level students can do what I mentioned about the cooperative learning. Good thing about the schedule, all classes fit within our high school schedule. Students don't miss any classes, or it's not scheduled in another manner. A location, they walk to the other side of the building. They don't even have to go across the parking lot like we did in the middle of winter.
Right.
So they just walk down there in between bells. They don't have to commute personally or any school organized commute, especially in the winter weather. Opportunity, there are various benefits of the program attract students that may not normally register for the class, purely based on the course content, like I mentioned with those girls that were welding. Accessibility, and not only are the facility and equipment accessible during class time, they're also accessible during other times. Students can come during their study hall anytime to work on a project or classwork. Last week I had a kid that took the welding class last year, just came down to weld. Earlier this year I had one student finish his stuff early, so he wanted to fix his toolbox on his truck. So I'm more than happy to have them come in and use stuff. If they're trained, have safety, pass the safety test. Equipment, we have a huge variety of equipment. We don't have a lot of some things, but we have, how do I say it? We don't have one thing with a lot of copies of that, but we got a lot of things with one copy. You can't learn. I've never had a kid that's come in and been able to do everything we have. So there's a lot of things they can choose from. Comprehensive safety program, I think I have in place. I don't want to jinx myself by saying anything more. Field trips, we've gone 1 or 2 field trips every semester for each upper level class, typically. I get funding from the state for CTE specifically, and it's my understanding our school gets funding depending on the enrollment of students in our classes. This semester I have 74 students in my 7 different classes. That's an average of 10.6 students a class. With an average class size of 24, I'm getting almost half of the kids in a class taking an elective CTE class. I got almost everything online. There's staff experience. As I said, I have a lot of experience in problem solving, critical thinking, teaching kids from 8th grade, the same kids 8th grade through senior year. You develop a pretty close personal relationship with most of them, so they get very accustomed to being familiar. And one more benefit is we're a small school. To me, that's a benefit. I taught in a school with enrollment of 2,000, and there wasn't the sense of community that there's in a small school. What do the students think? When I was in college, we always had to take a survey. The college made us take a survey, I think, on the professors at the end of the year. So I started doing that several years ago with my kids. It's an anonymous survey that they take at the end of the year. On the back are some results of some of the questions. There's 10 questions. I asked them, are you glad you took this class? On a scale from 0, no, to 10, yes. All classes combined, that's all my students, the average grade is 7.78 or average score. In the juniors and senior class, focus classes, it's over 8. How much do you feel like you learned in this class? If you think you learned absolutely nothing, a 0. If you learned something new every day, a 10. Those are the scores there. And how much fun did you have in class? They're both around 8 as well. So those, I feel, are good, pretty good. So looking at that UND rep that has come to talk about engineering a couple times, he saw the shop in the back, and even though it was a little messy, he said, your kids won't know what they have until they've been gone for 5 years. And if you look at those scores on the back, I think he's wrong, because I think they know what they already have. There's a little bit on the advisor committee, which I talked about early on. I will send an email to the school board meeting when we get that scheduled. And you are welcome to come. We will get an extra pizza.
Also have some positions to fill in the advisory committee.
We had to fill your one from last spring. I called 2 people and they both accepted. So we've got 2 people to fill.
More opportunity. Good, that's great.
So I don't know if anybody's got any questions, but I think that's a lot of times.
Mr. Isaac, so you started out talking about that, some of what prompted you, and I mean, thanks for this presentation, outstanding work, great programs. Was conversation around the Southwest Technical Center.
That was one comment that was mentioned. It was kind of, I don't even know what we were talking about at the time, but it just kind of got thrown out there, and it surprised me at the time.
Sure.
So that's why.
For strategic planning.
Yeah.
Group, I think it was.
Remember that? It was a comment.
For the greater group, help me understand the state funding of career and technical, and maybe this is something we need to follow up on. But when you look at that center, there's a ton of money.
It's about 14 million, I think they spent on it.
I believe so, and I got a pretty exclusive tour in there because we were trying to be wooed as a corporate sponsor of it. My question is, are we seeing the state lean into those and we're not getting equity for programs at our school? Are we as a district spending money on the Southwest Technical Center? Are we sending money there? And or are we seeing less money at our district level because we have access to, as you pointed out, difficult to get to? Are we seeing lesser money at our school because of the amount of money being funneled to that?
Well, I'll start and then Russ can add more.
Yeah.
We get funding from the state through the Perkins, it's called Perkins funding. And we've typically got about $8,000 a year to spend between myself and Mrs. Dorman. And career advising doesn't usually, they can get a computer or something, but that's about it. And I have a lot more stuff. So usually I can spend the most of that, but me and Mrs. Dorman try to split it up. That hasn't changed. It's been about the same every year. And the amount I get back, or we get back for my salary based on the curriculum I teach, that hasn't changed either. So I don't know if you want to add more to that.
Well, I was gonna say, it depends upon what you mean by losing money. Cause, well, if we send kids there, we have to pay.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, and it's a portion of the student aid. So we still collect their foundation aid payment, but then we have to pay Southwest CTE for whatever course or whatever they're taking. We're not going backwards, we're not losing money that way. However, they're spending so much money on those centers that they're not increasing what we have.
Okay.
if that makes sense. So in a sense, we are losing
So
money.
you can see that.
Yeah.
That is a valid statement,
Right.
that this
Well, yeah,
money being funneled to these
yeah.
centers is quite possible.
Perkins grant is $8,000 a year, and it's been that way for the past 10 years.
Right.
Well, $8,000 doesn't buy much anymore
No.
compared to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So you kind of did
Yeah.
almost.
Right, yeah,
lose
because,
money
yeah,
there.
with
They're
inflation
not-
or
they're
cost
not
of living or
increasing the
whatever.
funding by any means.
Right.
So where did the pressure or the concept or the mindset at all that center should service Richardson, where did that come from? What is there?
I think they're just trying to get as many people involved to continue their payment there,
Okay.
so that they continue to fund their programs.
But it
So-
wasn't like a state initiative said.
Oh, yeah, no,
Oh,
it was a state initiative.
It was.
For those centers,
Okay.
but it left rural schools out.
And in the state initiative, it was said or implied that this would service
Right.
more schools.
Right.
But yet we're finding that
Yeah, cause,
just-
I mean, and we're pretty close, I mean, we're 20 miles away, but still, a person to take one class, they're gonna miss out on 2 classes here. Because of travel time.
3
I
actually.
At
think it's
least.
block
Yeah.
schedule,
Three,
so
actually.
it's 2 class periods and
Oh, yeah, it
travel
is block,
time.
yeah.
And just a simple yes or no, with more money, you could do more?
With more space, I could do more.
Okay, fair enough.
I have trouble figuring out how to spend money on equipment, cause I don't have space for more equipment.
Interesting. The other thing that you talked about is that because of your provisional license, it seemed like you said that you're limited, although you found creative ways to incorporate welding, woods and that. Tell me more about that. Why? Who says? What says we can't?
My license came, I took what was it called? Alternative teaching classes or something like that. It was some program they set up for CTE, people with experience in a CTE field, welders, whatever, to become a teacher because they have experience, even though they don't have teaching degrees. So I think when I went through the program, when I started, it was fairly new. So I took a couple college classes that teach you how to work with kids, basically, because that's what they assume you don't have, which is probably correct. And then it's through the state CTE. They're the ones that recommend the approval of my license to DPI, to the Department of Public Instruction. The license is math and English
your
teachers.
license is through not VSBB, or is it
No,
VTSB here?
It's through there, but it's
It is.
based on a recommendation from CTE.
From CTE, I see, okay.
So the first 2 years were like a provisional, like you said, 1 year, and then they see how I'm doing, and if I'm taking these classes and stuff. After 2 years, I was able to get a 5-year license. Now I have a 5-year license like every other teacher. It's just like bypasses through the CTE before it gets to ESB. But it's still a teacher license, if that makes sense.
So what do we, again, so that explains the process, but what, I see some contradiction here in the fact that in one area we're able to certify somebody that, usually they say, well, you have to have a degree, and we've even seen that they don't have a degree, or you can import them from another country and they'll be certified, but yet you're being told you're limited in what you can teach.
The justification to me at the time is they wouldn't, some of these other classes, like these production classes, didn't have state approved curriculum. And if I didn't go through college to become a teacher, I don't know how to set up my own curriculum.
Oh.
That was the justification given to me.
Sure.
The state supervisor at the time, like I said, he was pushing towards everybody trying to be engineers in the tech and engineering department. So he didn't want to give, this is my opinion, he didn't want to give people license to do some of those other more purely hands-on things. I got a license to teach robotics engineering. There's no state curriculum for robotics engineering, but that one was given to me. I've got, since he retired a couple years ago, I had another supervisor last year. I think she was there 1 year. She was very open to doing whatever we felt was appropriate. And I have a new one now, he's in his 2nd year. So far, he's been the exact same way. So I think I asked him about getting licensed for another class called a senior capstone class, which is probably more akin to what my students have been doing that have been doing my assistantship, or what I call assistantship, the cooperative work education. Because really that one was more meant to be probably out of the realm of the school. But what they are doing is very beneficial because they have a huge, like a capstone project. You had to They gotta put together this big machine and figure out how to make it work or something. So there may be abilities, maybe I haven't looked into it, but to get additional licensing with a new state supervisor. But I know some of those classes, they were trying to get off of the list of approved state classes or whatever you call it.
Yeah. And by approved, it just simply means the state reimburses one, right?
Not necessarily that it's, a kid you get credit for, that's what I mean. That is something that's on the state level.
That actually.
That's an actual class they can get a credit.
So they hold two gatekeepers on that, funding and credit.
Right, yeah. And I guess what I was told too with the different classes, there's some ag individuals that go back and they're gonna be the ag teacher in a school. So they can do the welding, they can do those other things, but they can't do any engineering. So it's really based on what your past experiences are. And you have to have so many hours in a certain field to qualify, and so I think that's why some of them, are, you can't do it, but I think you're doing an awesome job of working around that.
So is there a way that, you can show that you have been incorporating this in certain ways that you can offer it down the road? Like, is that something that?
I don't know, I haven't looked into that. I would assume, since the classes are from the other CTE field, trade and industry, I would have to go through that supervisor and see. And I would guess that the short answer would be no, because I don't have hours of professional experience. But I don't know, I've never looked into it.
Sure.
When my original supervisor, I told him I was gonna do this, or that's what I wanted to do. He said, well, you're not gonna get funded for that. So we didn't get funded for when we do the welding or when we do the woodworking. We didn't get money for that for my salary. Now we do, because we have new supervisors more open to different things.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you.
If you got any questions, you can always email me. I'm always long-winded on stuff.
Well, this has been very
educational.
Yeah, really lets us know what we're
A lot of
doing.
good information.
And if you wanna talk to him, he's always at the school.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what time.
10 o'clock at night.
Correct.
He's here.
We came back from Dickinson after volleyball was over, and it was probably close to 9:30, and your car was parked on the side of the building, and Jenna goes, does he ever leave?
Just the other day?
Yeah, it would have been Monday.
That's because I was trying to find all these pictures for
Doing stuff for us. Well, thank you for this presentation and certainly what you do.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Neil.
I think I've taught everybody's kids, but yours, Dwayne, I think maybe your grandkids are coming up.
Yeah, they are. You didn't teach any, no, you didn't teach any of my kids.
Did you?
My kids are the same age as you.
Yeah, let's CJ. Let's take a 5-minute recess here, guys. We gotta go use the restroom or whatever.
Thanks much.
Get your computers to come back.
I wasn't gonna. You're still asleep by then?
Yeah, I went away.
That center, we went through consolidated, put money into the computer lab, so they gave us, we got it in all the buildings. I mean, there is so much money. That center is for Dickinson. And they're putting these centers in my opinion, they're putting them in the big school, by the big schools.
Yeah.
And they're saying, oh yeah, you guys can all use it. There's no way we can use it. And there's no way like the Bowmans and the Headingers.
Oh, yeah.
It's impossible. And yet it would be, it would be nice if they could, but the kid would be all day driving and then take a class and then go home. He'd miss a whole day of school to go to.
I just hope they don't end up merging it into the RACTC and then canceling part of the RACTC. Because
so far
RACTC was made to get to the rural schools.
Yeah, so far there's not that, and ours, there's talk about merging with some other, but RACTC is still sending out stuff for schools to use. I think the anatomy tables coming here this spring and stuff like that. That's
yeah. Oh yeah, they got all kinds of stuff we can sign up for, but
Right,
Mr.
because not
Roberts
our
always
school.
had everything here.
Well, you buy one of everything, cause he said he got sick of the stuff coming here and it not working.
Not
You'd have to
working,
try
yeah.
to fix it. Or you'd have to learn it, or you'd have to completely stop what he was doing, cause you got this thing for 2 weeks. You try to get all the kids on it. So he just started buying things and then kids can rotate throughout the semester. They're not crammed for time and he can have time to learn it.
So is the RCT stuff that not work when the kids here?
I've never gotten any.
You've never gotten it, no?
Because
That was, well, it was obviously years ago when Mr. Rolleder was there.
Yeah.
I think when Kevin Nelson was the director, I think he did a good job of keeping things maintained, or, getting things repaired and stuff. But inevitably, you're gonna take a module to a school and something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then you gotta get it fixed before you get to the next school.
Well, it's like, especially if they're like the plasma cutters and stuff, you can't take them apart and put them back together and expect them to operate smoothly.
Perfectly,
Yeah.
well, I talked to Kevin Nelson and kind of explained what I was doing. I saw him at a pinochle tournament and he said, "You're doing it the right way." So that was good. I'm going to the Dickinson one to tour it next week with Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, he's the director.
I've been to the Bismarck one at BSC, which is about $50 million too, but I just talked to Mr. Roeder. He said they're building a new one in Bismarck for like 30 million.
In
You hear about
Mandan.
that? Is it north of Bismarck?
I know they're doing a Mandan CTE center. I don't know if Bismarck's
Maybe
doing
that's
one also.
Maybe that's one he was thinking about, I'm not sure, but he said they're building, he thought north of Bismarck.
Could be.
So they're putting a lot of money. They're great,
Yeah.
they're great facilities, but I went to that one in Bismarck and I didn't really get a tour of it, but I was there for some other training. I wasn't drawn to a lot of it. I thought, well, we got one of those. We got one of those. We got one of those. We got a lot of this stuff. We just don't have a mass amount of it. And we may not have the brand newest model, but when you go out and work somewhere, you don't
Yeah,
know
you always
what's the
get
newest
that
model
in.
is.
So that pinochle tournament doesn't work, Karen's mom.
No. She laughed at me.
She's still laughing about it, bring it up. She's crazy.
We played against her like every Athens played against her like for the last 4 years. Was she 97?
97.
She's pretty short.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
And she's, I joke around with her too.
Yeah, well, she loves that too, yeah. But she takes her cards very seriously.
I'd be intimidated. I wouldn't want to give her the wrong card.
Great, thanks. Yeah, you go over to that building, I mean, the simulators are not, they got some money in there, they got some really good, they're auto mechanics, diesel mechanics, welding, they got beautiful welding shops.
Oh yeah, those shops are amazing, yeah. Quite a facility.
But I just don't see our kids being able to use it, it's just too much driving.
You'd have to make a schedule where they're there like one semester all day or half a day or something. But then how do you fit in their course?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised the numbers they quoted us with homeschool students going there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the draw, why someone would wanna send their student there and not public and versus home student. I don't know what the differences there would be, but.
Well, and it's weird too, because for the homeschool students, they have to go through a school. They can't just go there.
Correct, yeah.
So we have one that, is registered here,
Yeah.
so we collect the payment, foundation payment for the time that he's over there, but then we have to pay.
Redistribute it.
Yeah, the CTE center then.
Interesting.
For the Dickinson High kids, man, that's a huge.
When stuff like that gets set up, is the legislature involved?
That's who did it.
They are, okay.
Yeah, the legislatures are the one that put the money up and.
Yeah. And they define those types of things about like, okay, this district will have to receive the funding, distribute it, okay.
Wake up.
I've only been going an hour. If we would've started at 7.
Oh, this was very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Spend an extra hour eating.
Said right on the thing.
Dave, we had an understay at your place, you said it was really nice.
Good.
Brent, oh, what's his last name? He comes out of Wisconsin.
Okay, it's about bird hunting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Very nice.
Yeah, we've had a lot of hunters come through there in the last month or two.
Really?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, it's been busy.
He used to bring his camper up, he said, I can't pull my camper up, he said, I'll just stay here.
Did they get some birds down there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have way too many.
Oh, really?
We let anybody and everybody hunt, it was just
Nice. Got pheasants everywhere. That's fine.
Yeah, they're just, I mean, they don't take some of them roosters out, it's a little bit tough winters.
Okay, should we get back at it? Oh, no, we're only halfway through. Old business. All right, let's do this strategic plan update.
We're getting, trying to get the writing team together, get some teachers together, and then we'll start on that part, shortly.
Okay. All right, Taylor Playground. So we got 2 quotes.
Yep, I asked them to redo their quotes. Hellman, he had the rubber, mulch. So I asked him to take them off, and then I also asked him, about the amount of dirt. And he claims that's the amount of dirt we need. Cause it's only 90 yards, he says. So,
I had a question on the Razor's Edge one. Looks like the deliver and install, the 120 yards is on there twice. Is that right, or?
Let's see here.
Cause it says deliver and install the 120 yards of wood chips, and then down below it says deliver and install the 120 yards of wood chips. So I'm wondering if the quote should be $16,200 less.
Well, it does say the word
Additional.
So
Yeah,
is he
'cause-
saying that?
So it's gonna take 240 yards, or?
Right.
Okay,
Right,
that's where I
'cause-
was confused.
yeah.
I was,
I think, and that's if he removes, cause that's right underneath, the removing the existing wood chips.
Correct.
So if he removes the existing, then he would put 240 yards of wood chips in.
okay.
That's the way I took it. Anyway.
I was,
Cause he's the
Yeah.
one who did recommend to just leave the old and add on top. And I was
Right.
like, nope, we're not leaving the old ones there, they're disgusting. That was this one, right, that had told you
Right.
that? And so we
Right.
both had kind of discussed that and decided that was not a good option.
Well, I don't know, like, where your swings are, the dirt is actually moved.
Yeah, there's no wood
If we're not gonna fix the dirt, putting wood chips on there, the water's still gonna sit in those holes,
right,
so.
okay, that was the only question I had.
So these aren't quotes for the same work then?
As close as possible.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're thinking 2 different things. The dirt work and grading on Razor's Edge isn't adding a lot of dirt, that's more sculpting. Taking the high spots down and using that dirt to build up around the school, and where Hellman and Sons is more putting the new dirt around the school and using that to funnel the water away.
Cause they're bringing in 90 yards of topsoil.
Right.
But there must be,
Well, like Hellman, they don't have any concrete work on there for the basketball court where the other one does. They're tearing out the concrete and replacing it with new, it looks like.
Just that one section, that
Piece
one
of the
quarter.
basketball court, yeah, that was high where they had the trip
Yep, I just asked him to throw that on there, cause he does it, Hellman and Sons, they hired out their concrete, so he didn't put it on there.
so how can there be better part of $25,000 difference in just the mulch price?
That's what I don't understand. Or
I mean,
how
is one
they're,
using oak and the other pine, or I don't.
No, it's a very specific wood that has to be used for playground chips, so there's only one type of wood you can buy for that. So I'm just guessing Hellman and Sons didn't figure quite as much mulch.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, that would kind of be my assumption, and then, so if you went with that one, you might have to say, well, you may end up spending a little extra money for some more mulch if we come up short.
I see what you mean, fair enough.
But I haven't spent a lot of time studying either one of these either. So.
Do we have an opinion on what would be better, doing just addition of the dirt and that, or the sculpting that you're saying remove, and do we know which one will result in a better?
I mean, I don't know either company very well. However, I thought the Razor's Edge was more professional when they came.
I can tell you that they've done work for me and they do a great job.
And they sounded like they knew what they were doing. Yeah.
And you can see on the Hellman and Sons landscaping when they have that retaining wall. I wasn't a huge fan of that. That sounds like a child disaster to me, to have a retaining wall coming across the playground there. But when we talked to the Razor's Edge guy, he made it sound like he didn't see why we would need that. It's just a landscaping thing.
Because if we're removing dirt there, yeah, it would be fine. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a fan of retaining wall either. Something like that.
When would be the time frame of doing this work?
We were talking this spring.
Spring.
Oh, summer after school though.
Spring, summer, yeah. Rainy season, I would say.
I hear you.
Well, do you have a preference, Russ? Which one you're?
Like I said, I felt more comfortable with Razor's Edge.
It also took us a very long time to get in touch with Hellman and Sons the second time. Like our rebate, I mean, that was, we had the same quote for months.
To me, that's red.
3 and Hellman's short. One of them's got either too much wood mulch or one's short, so.
I'll make a motion to lock in the Razor's Edge quote for date as determined by administration.
I'll second that. Okay, got a motion and a second, any discussion?
The only thing I'm gonna ask is if we reach out just to make sure 240 yards is what, and if we don't, if it all, you know, if it's too much, are you gonna retract some of that
Sure.
off the bill, that kind of stuff?
I would
be my
agree.
only suggestion.
I'd agree with that too, yeah, but if it's too much, will you reduce the cost, because it seems like a lot.
Yeah.
I have to put a pencil to it, I guess.
Yeah,
I
240
don't know
yards.
if you did any
No.
estimating on it, but
Seems like a lot. But my other question was, we were applying for grants and stuff, right? And if we were to get them grants, do we wanna look at doing the other, like foam mat or whatever it's called down rather than wood chips?
When visiting with Dr. Siegler, we can't secure enough funding to cover $200,000 worth by spring. Like, there's no way that we can
You want the grants and stuff?
write enough grants, and they're, like, the turnaround time on that is not fast enough. Like, the 2 that we have submitted, we won't hear back till mid-December, so by the time we secure enough of that, it's not really an option. After speaking with Larry Grundall, he's the equipment guy, he kind of said that if you're unsure about it and don't know the route to take, wood chips is the way to go. You can always put in the surfacing later.
I didn't wanna say that we wanna do this now and then, then we decide in the spring when we got the funding available, we're gonna go that route anyway, you know? So, but yeah, that's where we're gonna go.
I'll talk to him too about using some of the mulch that's there. I don't know why they can't, you know, use some of that instead of getting a whole new 120 yards.
Yeah, pull that out, what's good, keep, and
Yeah.
get rid of the rest, and use that as your base, and then
Right.
you don't let new on top.
Right.
Stinks. No, literally, it's
Rough, huh?
it's
Oh, yeah.
like the community litter box.
Oh, that kind of,
It's
I don't know
stinks.
what it
Forget it. Stop.
Apparently that struck a nerve. If it smells and stinks, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far down it goes, so you know, it's
Wow.
never been like
It's a good
truthfully, you know, so maybe the,
Or more.
it's gross. I would prefer to move it all. So whatever you guys think. That's nasty.
Any more discussion on this before we? Seeing none, okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Razor's Edge. Okay. Did you guys get through the superintendent evaluations with all of our screw ups?
It should be in your folder. I think there should be a link to. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so is there a quick overview we do before going through these, or?
These are all consolidated, so it's not individual ones. If you go onto the system, I think, and you can, maybe Jody, as the president, you're the only one, I'm not sure if the others have access, but where it says like 33 out of 40 or 3.4 out of 4, if you click on that, you can get a list of who scored what, a breakdown. But this is just a printing of the consolidated one, so you won't get that.
Where are we supposed to be at? In supporting documents?
Yeah. Yep.
Under the fall superintendent evaluation?
Yep.
Oh, I see, there's a,
So it's,
okay,
yeah,
across the top here, there's the different,
no, that's just who's on it.
oh, yeah,
It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't break it out into each individual one.
oh, okay.
You guys wanna take a few minutes to look through this? This is the first time we're seeing it.
So some of the questions I have, like, there's a comment here under, thanks for looking into the math program. I think we have some work to do here, submitted on November 4th. Yet until tonight, I was unaware that the math program was being looked into. Is there some communication that's going on that's not being sent to the entire board? Am I missing it? Is it not getting, am I missing them in emails or?
I made that comment. And it just so happened that I had talked to Russ that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about what's coming up here, we're gonna be talking about that.
Oh, okay.
So when I put it on the superintendent's report, I think I did.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So then is the intent to use the same evaluation go forward basis?
We kind of talked about that at the personnel committee meeting. And it kind of was, we looked at prices, we actually had a presentation from a company that, you know, other places have used and whatever, and I think this was what we wanted to use for the time frame that we had available. But we're gonna look into something a little more geared towards what we want versus just kind of generic, pick from these questions type thing.
I struggled with a lot of the questions because just simply, how do you rate something that we haven't done?
Right, and that's kind of what we struggled with too.
Well, and we picked these questions, you know, John and I and Mr. Ziegler went through and basically pared down the CAN evaluation. So we thin it out.
Because there was way more questions that was on this before that were absolutely irrelevant. I mean, like, you can't even.
Right.
And even some of them that are on here, we talked about that it's tough to judge on, but you gotta have something on there, you know, I mean, there's just no, if you whittled it down to nothing, what's the point?
Well, in my experience and what I've taken several classes on some of this, and the most effective evaluation is just a straightforward essay. Just a complete narrative from a supervisor to a report of here's what's going well, here's what's not. I'm not sure if that fits. Is there, so we're under the state requirement to have the superintendent evaluation, right? I don't think there's criteria within the state, right?
No, all it says is the superintendent has to be evaluated by on or before November 14th, and then on or before March.
And I like the statement you made in one of the last meetings, and I think we all agreed of, the evaluation is for yourself to improve and to
for growth, yeah.
And, you know, I struggled doing this, you know, we kind of, I went through it as pretty quickly, I'll say, but I struggled with this evaluation in terms of, like I said, you know, especially at this point in time, we had items on there, well, unfortunately, yeah, you got to score 1 out of 4 because it simply hasn't happened.
Great.
So how do you say if 4 is exceeds expectations, 3 is, and it wasn't defined on that, 3 is, you know, 3 is at or above expectations, 2 is below it, and 1, because that seemed the way the math worked out. Unfortunately, if you haven't done it, it's just a 1. So I guess I'd like the board to at least discuss what is the best method to go about evaluation. Are we wanting to have a criteria like this where we have something that is just repetitive and used over and over and you can see growth in that manner? Is it something where we want to work on a way to have a more narrative? I saw that there wasn't very many comments put in.
Well, and I think that's kind of what we talked about our meeting was trying to come up with something that is more relevant than this.
Okay.
Like I said, we had that presentation, but that seemed to be like it was, the cost certainly didn't.
It was a marketing point.
Yeah. And so I think that, you know, obviously it'll be something that we can continue to work on, but this isn't what we want to stick with.
Okay.
Yeah, what I read from the meeting that we kind of had.
I like having some questions to choose from in the 1 through 4, 1 through 5 scale, because otherwise, if you're just writing an essay, your essay's probably gonna be on what just happened in the last month versus what happened over the last year, because you're reviewing the whole year essentially, right? So your focus is gonna be on the recent activities, whatever's happened, whether good, bad, or otherwise. That's what you're gonna focus on if you're just writing a straight essay. Where I think if you got some questions to go along with it, and in the comment section afterwards, you can elaborate more, and it helps you remember other things that have gone on over the year.
I like the program that John was talking about, because it gives the superintendent a chance to show evidence. So it has the question, but then you can submit, you know, that you can submit the meeting minutes, you can submit agendas, you can show evidence that, yes, I did this. Letters out to the staff or whatever, I could submit that as evidence. So then when the board's going through it, they can, you know, say, okay, did he do it? Here's the evidence that shows that he did, and then you can have a better feel for it. But I don't think it's worth, almost $3,000 a year to
There's some
have
wiggle
that.
room there, you can trim down.
Yeah.
Flat set.
But, the state, the administrators, I guess, are looking into that same company, so maybe through the state, we'll get a better deal. If, you know, a lot of schools join it, then maybe we can get a better deal, but I don't know how long that would take either.
We looked at a few different programs too, you know,
Yeah.
even the simple ones from the, you know, School Boards Association. You know, and they all kind of follow this similar format of giving you the different areas that a superintendent is responsible for, and then, you know, rating them on that. In a way, that guideline's kind of nice, especially for newer board members, when you may not know everything a superintendent is supposed to be responsible for. You know, so there's a little bit of guidance in some of that too, you know, and, you know, hitting all the areas that you should be evaluating on, or that a superintendent should simply be doing. Because you probably don't know.
No, yeah, that's just it, that's why I like having, go through different departments or different questions, you know, and it tells it all, you know.
And I think, like I said, having that evidence, if we could put it on there, that would help a lot too.
I just think we should strive to get something that's for our district, and I'll say this, that right now I feel like we put out an evaluation that's equivalent to a teacher who tested on something that maybe wasn't ever taught. I mean, I'm really not comfortable with where we ended up with on the score. I was certainly not comfortable with what I scored, in the fact that I was scoring content that had never even been given the opportunity, or really didn't evaluate Mr. Ziegler at all. It might have even evaluated the past superintendent and what you inherited. And so I don't know. I think we're at the point where we're at. We got to submit something, I think, tomorrow. But I just think this is a work in progress for sure. You know, to the point of the narrative focusing on the now. That's not all bad either. When you get too canned with this, you just get routine, right? And you're just, oh, we went up. Once you're at 4 on everything, then what? Now you have no opportunity to improve, right? So the in the moment stuff is okay too.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
When you give a 4, I've given 4s, I give a lot of 4s, because I think if a guy's doing a good job, I'll give him a 4. That doesn't mean he stops growing. When you get a 4, you gotta keep going to keep on getting that 4. I think what you gotta remember in evaluation, and for us, it's different than when you're evaluating somebody that, like an employee where you're with them every day. We're not with them every day. And so it's harder for us to evaluate. So you gotta kind of look at what they're asking, and I use an evaluation as a building tool, and that's what, and so there shouldn't be anything on this evaluation that he isn't aware of.
But there was.
You know, like I'm just saying in any evaluation, before it comes up, before it's written in here in evaluation, let's say you give him a 1 or something, he should be aware of that before it's on here, in my opinion.
Well, I agree with you, but I don't think that this evaluation did that, because there was
Well, I'm
stuff
just saying
sure
that's the tool that should be used for it. Because if we're talking to him and there's an area that he needs to be growing on and it's not improving, then it has to be on the evaluation.
Well, for instance, like this one, superintendent ensures development of job description for district staff and ensures hiring policies, procedures, and laws are followed to select and retain qualified employees. I doubt that Mr. Ziegler knew that was going to be part of his fall evaluation, or at some point he probably would have gone through job descriptions for staff and hiring policies with the board, right? I had to score that a 1 because we just simply haven't done it, right? So I agree with you, Dwayne, on that, but that's what I mean is we need to get to a tool that evaluates that Mr. Ziegler is well aware of before that these are the expectations.
My comment was just that when you get to a 4, that doesn't mean you stop growing.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Just
okay.
I agree with what you're that part of it. And I don't like these because we're not with him every day.
No, sure, that's the problem.
Yeah, and so you're supposed to evaluate somebody that you see once a month, maybe twice if you're lucky, and that's tough.
So all that being said, do we want to stick with this evaluation for spring semester so that, Dr. Ziegler knows what's on it and what he should be looking at?
To be fair, we at least should be presenting that within a reasonable time before the evaluation of what is on the evaluation and expectations, right?
Right, so you want to, I mean, so my question is, should we stick with this?
Same questions,
Same
same
questions,
everything.
same exact evaluation for the spring, you know, so that you're familiar with it, and Dr. Ziegler's familiar with it, and he knows what.
So in this tool, there was multiple pieces to,
Oh, yeah, there's way more.
There
to it
was
than this.
8 pages of questions.
Yeah.
yeah.
Every time you clicked on like a number 1, then I went to 1 A, B, C, D, E after.
Is this the same one we used prior year?
Yep.
Yeah.
We just took a bunch of questions,
Yeah,
you know,
pared it down.
some was repetitive, some, you know,
Yeah.
this, that, so we just, so that as an evaluator for us board members, you know, you can think a little bit more about each question and not keep thinking, oh geez, I got through, 15, I got 60 more to go. You know, I mean, so, and, then you got a little time to spend on comments or whatever too.
One of the things I would say is good to stick with is the major categories. I liked what was picked and chosen for the major categories, being goal and vision setting, board relations, the human resource management, community relations. I would even say that I'd like to weight those a little bit of what is the board sees as the most. Because, I mean, another thing about an evaluation and it being a tool, it probably should be robust enough that you're probably not going to get to everything. But if the board can communicate with the superintendent, like, look, human resource management is our top, so we'd like to see, if anything lags, maybe it's operational resource management. If this gets a little behind on shampooing the carpets, oh well, but anyway, those pieces I thought were good.
I don't think we changed those. I think we keep all the major, we didn't.
The majors we left.
Yeah.
We didn't delete any of the
No.
majors, no. We just took questions out within those categories.
I guess as, the one being evaluated, I would say it would be better for me if we went through it and decided, what is expected and build a new one for the spring evaluation. Instead of sticking with this, that really, if it doesn't mean much, it doesn't mean much. I mean, let's get to something that will help.
Yeah, I agree.
Which means we gotta start working on it right away.
Right.
When's
Who's
the
on
spring
that
one due?
committee again?
I mean, I don't know when the spring one is due, but if you wanna have it ahead of time, then we can just do it right away.
Well, and I think part of it is, cause there is I think it's in policy, the superintendent job description. So then you can use that to build the evaluation ourselves.
Okay, well, are we ready to go through this? What we do is we go each of the major categories and basically board member by board member, I'd say satisfactory or unsatisfactory.
Do we even
Or
need to
can
do
we-
that, or is that a practice that, because essentially this final scoring is that in a mathematical tally, am I not mistaken?
Actually, if you look through it category by category, every one is satisfactory, right?
Right.
And then, so therefore, you're removing it that way, but,
Is there a thing that says we have to do that?
I don't know.
No,
So this would,
yeah.
we just make a motion to accept it.
Accept it?
Right.
Basically, I make a motion to accept
I'll
this
make a
as
motion to
submitted.
accept it.
Yeah, as it was, I mean, cause
I
at this
do like
point, I
that
guess we
better.
kinda did already do that.
Why didn't we come up with that a long time ago?
Well, I don't know, that's the way you did it.
That's because our business administrator told us we had to do it that way, and I'm pretty sure she was probably right.
Writing, just remember.
That's a lot of finger pointing.
Alright, I'll second it.
Who made the?
Dwayne did.
Okay, Dwayne moved
She's
to
watching right now, I'm
accept
sure.
the evaluation as it's printed. You have a second? Any more discussion
Call later. Yeah.
on the evaluation?
You're ringing me before he gets out of here.
Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries.
I think, You would have to do that if you were looking at all the individuals and then compiling them. But this did it for you, so then you didn't have to do that.
Oh, gotcha.
So.
Okay, lighting quotes.
Okay, I had them, the RT building stayed the same. It's retrofitting the lights in the gym to LED, keeping the fixtures, new fixtures in the locker rooms. And that quote is $49,6775 for the school's 50%. $9,935 total. So that was the same as last time.
And just to reiterate on that, I know, John, you were concerned about hot spots in the gym or bright spots, and then you looked at the ceiling, but they're just replacing bulb for bulb basically with LEDs. We shouldn't have that.
Yeah, it's not gonna be the circular LEDs that are in
mini
Taylor.
suns.
Yeah. And then he said every bulb in there is gonna be frosted.
Okay.
Also, so.
That's better.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Okay.
So that's the high school one. Taylor had the changes. They said that if we spent the money to put dimmers on everything, we wouldn't get our 10-year payback, which is required for the grant.
Because the dimmers cost so much.
Right. Right. So they didn't put the dimmers on, but they did replace all the fixtures, except for the gym, because that's already LED, and keep the switches the way they are. So each room would still have two switches. So you could separate half. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, Lindsay, is that acceptable? I know you seem to be a little concerned about it.
No, I just was concerned when John had said about the brightness. So did we confirm that for that building also, that cause the gym lights are super bright,
Yeah.
so that was why we had talked about the dimmer when you guys were
Right.
over there, that if we were gonna have a concern about it, put the dimmers on.
And they can put in, he said, depending upon what we want, would be the lumens of the bulb. So he could put in lower lumens if we don't want them so bright when they install it.
So with them, are these ones frosted as well?
Yes.
So are the ones that are in the gym frosted?
Currently?
In Taylor Gym?
I don't know.
No, that's a super bright
Right.
direct LED.
So would they be dimmer if they're frosted than what the gym is?
It wouldn't be as, I don't know if the lumens might be the same, but it wouldn't be as shocking to your eyes.
I think that's the biggest concern if I'm.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, so, we got them in here.
Yeah.
So 170 of the fixtures in Taylor, which are the ones in the classrooms in their lay-in ceilings, which is the ceiling we have here. 170 of them are these 2x4 LED panels. I guess what I see here now is those panels are selectable watt, 20, 30, 40, or 50 watt per panel, pre-selected by the installer.
Right.
And put in.
So
then you can always pull them down.
So they're gonna be these.
But these are
dimmable.
Doesn't work down.
There it goes. It takes it a couple. Yeah.
Okay, this is just dimmable. With this one. Where once you, what I'm saying is if you put them in a classroom and said, oh, that's too much for this classroom. At the installation time, you say, nope. Reselect it to the 30 watt instead of the 50 watt or whatever for the panel. And then it, would soften it up a little bit.
But these are the same thing that would be going in.
The lights, but not the dimmer.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Is this considered frosted?
This kind of.
Yeah, it has a frosted bulb, and then
It's really not a. These panels are weird. There's really not so much a bulb in these even. It's just that lighted panel. I mean, they're really cool. They're not intense.
Right.
And then you can always switch. Your classrooms are all half and half. turn one side on, turn one side off if you wanted to.
Kelly, Robin? What do you think?
Do you like these lights?
I'm still grieving the loss of the dimmer. It depends on the situation. Like sometimes you want it higher light when you're wanting calm, focused work, you want it lower, so a lot of the time right now,
So
I
how much
have
your
only
dimmer
half of my
cost?
classroom on.
How much are dimmer?
Did he say how much they were? Or?
No.
I know they gotta pull an extra wire. They gotta pull an extra wire from, basically every fixture ends up pull an extra wire and pull down the switch to make the dimmer go. It's probably where some of the expense was coming.
Yeah.
I guess. So.
I definitely wouldn't want it bright.
What was that?
I definitely wouldn't want it really bright, just like normal working light. I don't know how many lumens that is.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
If I'm understanding what you were saying though, Jody, that maybe the selectable allows them to go change the brightness with the same fixture, they just pull it, change the switch.
Right, the installer.
So
Yeah,
if,
or probably maintenance.
if you said this too bright, we can do that. So I guess then the question becomes, is the ability to dim and brighten through different events and that through the day worth and what we'd want to have?
But this price doesn't include the dimmers.
Right, we'd have to go back for that piece.
Well,
Well,
then we wouldn't even get the grant.
We wouldn't, we probably wouldn't get the grant. Cause
If you did it
if you did the dimmers.
on your own.
Well, if we did it on our own and they don't know about it.
That's what I would do. I mean, if it's too bright down the road, we'll put dimmers in and we'll fix it.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, it's a hassle to go pull them
Yeah,
out.
as long as what Jody, you're saying that these can be, cause we're not gonna know.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna know if a 50 watt or whatever the lumen, I'm not gonna know that until they're in the space. With
Right.
the new carpet and the new ceiling tile and then I'm, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're not gonna be able to say that right now.
No, but Ross, it's just a switch up on the fixture. So Ross could even go up and if it's too bright, he could turn it down a notch and see what happens.
Sure.
I don't even think you change the bulbs, it's just the amount of wattage going through the bulb.
Yeah, these new LEDs, it's just a click, click, click.
It's crazy. They
Yeah,
got
so.
switches on these bulbs where it's like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I'm
we
okay
can
with
always
that.
install
What Jody
dimmers.
said.
I mean, you can always do that down the road. I mean, if it's too bright, tone it down.
That's good.
Do they use them in the school over here? They use the dimmer?
We use dimmers a lot.
I know, but that bugs me, cause I go in a room and say, why is it so dark in here?
But you know what, you go into your room and it's either on or off, there's no dimming.
Exactly.
Like it's there, it's dark. But the teachers use the dimmers a lot, they do, and especially at different times of the day, like afternoon when it's harder for students to focus, there's a lot more dim lights on in the building.
Yeah.
I would, let's get the grant,
Yeah,
we'll
let's
put the
get
dimmers
going.
in ourselves.
I agree.
Along with this work, I mean, we can vote on this, but maybe before we do, let's describe the other work we're looking at too. We're looking at carpet. Oh, that's further down the line.
Yep, it's further down there. And then the ceiling tiles.
Oh, so, okay. Okay, well, we're looking at other work here, so, okay.
Make a motion to accept both proposals for lighting.
Okay.
I second.
Got a second, John? Any more discussion on that?
Did he have a timeline on when he was gonna be able to do it?
They actually wanna get it done before school's out because their summer is pretty much full.
He's able to work around class schedules.
He
and
said they would come in and start when class was out and then work till 10, 11 at night until they, and do it room by
Isaac all
room.
right with that?
What's that?
Says Mr. Isaac all right with that? Maybe work done on-
Well, the good part about that is you could see a classroom done, go turn the lights on and
Right.
say, nope,
Yeah.
too bright, let's dim them,
Yep.
let's notch it down.
Yep, yep.
More discussion, questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, new business. We got teacher retirements.
Sad day, had two individuals bring me their resignation letters for their retirements today, Mrs. Messer and Ms. Gress. So we knew they were coming, it's just, they're staples of the district. They've been here a long time. So, and both gonna be hard to fill positions. Not just because of whose shoes the new person will be stepping in, but just, yeah.
Tough spots.
Yeah.
Now that would be end of school year?
Yes, end of school year, yep.
Take something.
They both stayed
I told
longer than they
them
had
that.
to.
I tried to talk both in one more year, just one more year.
Yeah, just one more year.
Are they aware of the teacher retiree hire program?
They are, actually, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And actually, Miss Gress said that she'd be interested if we do find someone that needs mentorship or
Yeah.
supervision to come back and do that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And they both handed me letters and left, so we didn't have to sit and cry, which I very much appreciated.
Okay, and then you have a resignation?
Coach Martin resigned as head football coach. So we are looking for a head football coach. I talked to Myron in Hebron and he said he can't think of anybody over in Hebron, so if you know of anybody who may be interested, we do have a couple people that might be, but we haven't had a definite yet.
You start advertising and recruiting, huh?
Yeah. I talked to Troy about Mrs. Messer's spot, and he suggested we wait until after the college semester and then open it up right away at end of December, beginning of January for her position.
Why wait?
I agree, why not just?
Yeah, we could do it right
Just
away.
because the students-
Just don't close it.
The students are going to be looking.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Leave it open.
I would even entertain the motion or a discussion around early hiring of that position especially, and perhaps the other if we find, I don't know, where are we at on, it seems, I don't see very many student teachers through our district, is that
There aren't any, well, I shouldn't say any, there's very few teachers going through education programs.
Sure.
So we always used to have 3 or 4 every year from Dickinson.
Well, that's
But
kinda
they're not,
scary,
they're not graduating anymore.
UND is looking for an overflow though, to send them out farther, so we did get an email where we could put in what we were looking, or who could supervise and mentor. So I did put a whole bunch of positions on there, but
Our teachers also need to be qualified to host a student teacher,
Right,
so that's,
yeah, that's a,
I
yeah,
mean,
I get it.
It's one
we have
course.
any right now? I think we have, no, I mean to supervise, that is qualified to supervise, like depending where they're going to college at. In Taylor last year, I was the only one that was able to supervise, so right now I think we have none. Depending what college they go through, like Mrs. Max can do it cause she's going through a different out-of-state university, so it worked for her, but usually that's not how it works.
Well, I mean, I think we should advertise, and if we find someone interested soon, I'd even consider an early position, just to help with that transition, and certainly been something we've struggled with.
Troy actually brought up the idea that if we could get someone earlier, that should be discussed, if we could hire them for the last quarter under Mrs. Messer to get trained for at least a quarter of a year.
I'd say even semester, depending upon if we can find
possible,
anyone.
yeah. That's up to you guys.
Okay, any more discussion on that?
Make a motion to advertise both positions as is.
You have to advertise all 3.
You gotta
All
advertise 3.
Maybe all 3.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Do Do we even need a motion on that?
I don't, do you need it on the football? I don't know, is that?
No, I mean on everything, or that just something that
Yeah, you wouldn't need a motion on that.
Dr. Ziegler, take care of it.
Yeah.
Board recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, bus bid opening. Or opening 4 bids, you're saying?
Yeah, we have 1 bid. And they asked if they could do it by email because they wouldn't be able to get it in on time without. So I said yes, and I haven't opened them yet, so here they are. Isn't that something?
It's down
Oh,
in
okay.
your Google.
This is the 47 capacity from Hartley's. They have an office in Rugby.
How many pages of specs do we get?
Just 7 this time.
7.
At least there was a price on this one though.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
It was at the
Was
top,
that- was that-
Oh, was it?
125.
Yeah,
Yep, it was on
125.
Yeah, 125. And that's a 47 passenger diesel, I assume?
Yes, I requested diesel for that one. Where does it say? Cummins 6.7.
Oh.
We want a bus that big, I thought we were looking little buses.
Well, we
Where the
started
transformation.
We started looking at our current inventory.
Yep.
And if we got on a rotation, did they say how long this one would take?
Let me go back.
If we got on a rotation of replacing the ones that need to be replaced every year, you know, if we did one this year, one next year, well, a lot of them are a year and a half, 2 years out. So we'd be falling behind on.
Gotcha.
So we're actually looking at 2.
Okay.
No, they didn't on this one.
One of them was
The 14 passenger, they have one in stock.
Okay.
That's this one here. Yeah, one stock unit available. 110,000.
That's a gas one.
The gas.
And these guys are out of Rugby?
There's an office in Rugby.
Okay.
John, fill us in more on what we need, what you guys got through.
Well, so originally we kind of talked about like a Suburban or whatever, and then when we looked at the numbers on potential, not necessarily kids that are riding, but if everybody did want to ride, we wouldn't have enough room in a Suburban.
Okay.
So when we looked at it, it was the one of the 14 passengers was the first one that needs to be done. And then the 47 passenger would be the second one that would need to be done in the rotation of replacing them over the course of every year or every other year. We looked at miles, we looked at year, condition of the bus, all those, I mean, we factored in a lot of different things. And so when we decided it was, well, and it would, if the other one is an order out, that this would work out where it would be one this year, one next year. But anyway, and then, you know, replace those as needed, like I said, whether it's every year or every other year, but we had it written down on what we thought the schedule would look like, on which ones we would replace through basically the entire fleet to a degree until we got to some of the newer ones and, you know, wait on condition and that kind of stuff as time goes on.
So right now, your guys' recommendation is replace that.
Well, the first
14
the first would be the 14, and then,
That bus is like,
yeah, but so that one seems like it's available, so we could do that one now if we decided to. And then, assuming that the 47 passenger is an order out, then that one would come in, usually it's like a year and a half lead time. So it could be not even next school year, the school year after.
On the suburban talk, do we have a feel for if we were to go suburban routes, would we see more participation in applicants to do bus driving and be able to split routes?
The other thing to keep in mind, you have to do child seats for a lot of them.
Oh, sure.
Which you don't on a bus.
Okay.
And then, you know, your longevity on these is probably gonna be longer than on a Suburban. Now, a Suburban's gonna be roughly half to 2/3 the price of.
So in the end, you're saying
This is gonna
cost
be
is neutral.
I think it is. I think really in reality, it's gonna be about a horse apiece.
But do we feel like we would have better chances of getting bus drivers with suburban routes?
I don't know if it would.
I don't think so,
I don't
because
think
you need a regular license to drive this too.
Okay.
You don't need a special one.
Because no matter what you drive, that the school owns, you still have to go through the
Annual training.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I just thought I'd ask you.
And then apparently we can't do like 14 passenger vans anymore.
No.
Cause I had talked about that and reached out to a couple people. But I guess a few years ago, there was accidents and they were rolling over and doing whatever, so they said that you can't do those anymore.
You do a Suburban but not a van?
Correct.
They treat it different. So our options for the 14s, we had this one, then there was that one in Bismarck was in stock, or is that one gone now? Wesley's had one, didn't they?
they had one
Carlos.
coming up, I think it was a.
Yeah,
it's-
And then
it
there's
wasn't in stock.
That
It's
one
not in
wasn't in
stock.
stock?
No, it
it's
was
like-
gonna be built in January.
Okay, and then there was a two down in Indiana or
Right.
Oklahoma or whatever.
Oklahoma. Yeah.
But our process here though, I think is we advertise for bids
Right,
and then this is what we receive for bids. Like,
Right.
can you go outside? I mean, you can reject all bids
Right.
right,
or pick one of these,
right.
but you can't pick outside. If someone didn't bid, you can't do that, can you?
No,
Unless
you would have to.
You have to reject them
Yeah.
all and then solicit more bids.
Right, right.
So like this email here, you opened up bids just for Outland, and this is what we got, is just this one?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so this is a, I'm gonna say bid opening.
And
on
the
this-
problem we have with the bids is our location really, cause we're supposed to put it in our designated paper, which comes out once every 2 weeks. And it's supposed to be out, the bid is supposed to be out for 10 days. But when you have a paper that comes out once every 2 weeks, Dixon Press comes out only on Wednesdays, once a week, but then they have the online, and so it's so hard to.
Yeah, and
It was a short turnaround, I
But
guess.
you can go out and solicit bids. So
Right.
You get a hold of
Yeah.
companies and say, hey,
Yeah, and that's what I called them and I
This
called
bid is
Carlos
open.
and, yeah,
Oh, he did.
yeah.
But if that paper thing, I know at the beginning of the year I talked about that, of like, love what the Richardton Merchant does, but that timing thing and posting open meetings and that,
Yeah,
I think we've got some separate discussion about that.
But I think the ones that you had gotten from the Oklahoma one was a little bit cheaper, not significantly, but then it would cost to deliver. So I think at the end,
Well, and
you're
it was
about
missing
wash
a lot
anyway.
of the
well, and I think it was
northern
actually,
improvements.
wasn't it 115?
I was thinking it was 120, and it was 120 and 130.
I think they were decent.
So this one is
Yeah.
the cheapest one
Yeah.
we've seen at
This one
110.
is the cheapest.
Oh, 110, well, I was thinking 120, was the other one 125?
Oh, it was 125.
Oh, then
Yeah.
that's why.
The big one is 125,
Okay,
yeah.
I had 125 in my head from that one, I guess.
See, I think this is the cheapest one we've seen for the 14 passenger.
And this is delivered. You know, they're not tacking on extra miles or anything like that, so,
It's in stock and it's delivered.
right.
and it has a core heater probably.
For the shape that the bus that we're replacing, I really think we should jump on this one, cause that bus is bad.
Yeah, that
So
was
we say yes today, we got it next week then?
What's that?
I have to ask them, I don't, yeah.
We got the funds available to cover it?
Probably, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it probably isn't gonna be available there.
Oh,
Probably not.
Right.
I'll make a motion to accept the Hartley's bid for the 14 passenger.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second on the 14 passenger bus, discussion on that?
I have a question. Just for us, are we gonna try and get a low interest loan for it, or are we gonna use savings dollars?
I think we should pay for it.
I think we should pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cause I don't, with the way interest rates are right now, you're gonna be in the sixes, I'm guessing.
Probably.
And so you're not even gonna, like, having the money in the CD at that point doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I asked that earlier.
Yeah.
We have this money, I mean, there's no sense in storing up this money.
Yeah, and then do we wanna, I mean, not in this motion, but do we wanna act on the?
You gotta finish this first.
The bus?
Yep. So this would be the first motion and
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, just, more discussion. More questions on this? Okay. 14 passenger bus is a gas. It's yellow, meets everything we need. Okay, if there's no more questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries.
What I would like to know about the 47 passenger is what their lead time is on that.
Promise date, June 12th
Of,
25.
so we'd have it before.
So it'd be this June, this coming June.
Cause originally we were thinking every other year, that's why we.
And you'd be done for the next year.
I don't know, so, it's a need, the need's there.
Yeah, you guys are saying it's
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
what it is.
Cause that one, I think I might have it here.
Well, and price wise, it says 125 pre-trade. We could try and trade two in on it.
Was it one of the goals to keep one as a spare though? Would we have a spare if we traded two of them in?
We have.
Yeah, two is the spare.
Okay,
So if we traded that on a bus, then whatever bus this one is replacing would become the spare.
so you'd still have a spare even if you gave them two
Right.
buses. Oh, number two, not two buses?
Right, yeah, number two.
Okay, that's where I got confused at.
Yeah, sorry. Number two.
Okay,
So that little bus we're still trying to sell, I mean, you're not gonna get much for it that.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it is done. I think that was Glenn Gullickson's bus, wasn't it?
It probably.
I mean, it's been good, but it has miles.
100 miles per hour.
Oh, I don't have the number, it's.
200 something.
Well, if they're saying it's a need, I doubt these are gonna get any cheaper.
That's the thing too.
I guess I'd make a motion that we go ahead with this second bus also. Try to trade it in,
I think so.
yeah, get rid of it.
Cause that wasn't the one we were gonna keep as a spare. Right?
Yeah, that's what,
No, that would go on a route and then what I can't remember what number it was, would
Yeah.
become our spare.
Right. I have, the stuff I wrote down is in here, but I have the.
So which bus would you trade in, what number?
Two.
I'll second
And that is
motion.
Say
47.
we have a motion and a second, more discussion on this. So then we're covered for the next 2 years, or I mean, we can,
Right,
Then you wouldn't have to replace the bus until
26, 27.
or is it 27, 28 if we're gonna go every other?
So next year would be 25.
Were you gonna skip a year between buying buses, or what was the plan?
Well, we were gonna look at every year, but we were gonna order two, if we had to order out, we were gonna order two this year.
Okay,
And then we were gonna look at the condition, so our first bus number was gonna be bus number 4, which should be the 47 passenger,
bus 4 is a 14 passenger.
or 14 passenger,
Yeah,
excuse me.
14, yeah.
The second one was gonna be bus 9, the 47 passenger.
Right.
But bus 2 would, I thought you said was in worse shape than bus 9.
Yeah.
And so we were gonna keep bus 9 and get rid of bus 2.
And trade bus 2,
Right.
yeah.
So that would take you to 26, 27. It's 25, 26 is next year.
Unless, now I can't remember, was it bus 9 that has air brakes? It might be better to trade in the one with air brakes, so we, cause that would help with drivers.
Yeah.
Bus 9 is a freight liner,
Air
so
brakes is-
probably does have air brakes in it. Decent freight, that bus 9 is the freight liner.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's probably the one with air brakes in it.
Could be.
It's IC International.
You said bus 2 was in rough shape. Didn't you?
It's old. I mean,
It's a 2007.
It's only 1 year older than 9.
If you,
Bus, yeah.
it stinks when it runs. You can smell the diesel.
Inside?
No.
Won't make California.
That explains probably some of the problem.
Does the 47 passenger on the bid, does that have air brakes?
No.
No.
I requested no air brakes, yeah.
And then would it be maybe the intention, so bus 8 is the one activity bus right now, it's only got 25,000 miles on it. It's
Right.
5 years old, does that one go into the rotation and this new 47 if they be the new
We
activity
talked
one?
about that too, of possibly doing that one.
Yeah, take this one and put some miles on it, and the new one will
Right.
be a reserve bus,
Right.
just thoughts, I guess.
The bad thing is you don't want buses just sitting either.
Well, the activity buses, they still get used. Yeah, they get used a couple times a week anyway, it's not like they're sitting all the time, right?
Yeah, cause this bus 8 doesn't have air brakes, does it?
No.
So the only bus that we have is 9 that has air brakes.
And blue.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and the coach, yeah. And we only have, I think, 3 drivers that can have air brakes.
Right.
Okay, guys comfortable with this? Any more discussion?
I think we're just continuing to try to talk ourselves into it, so.
Okay, motion is to accept the bid on the 47 passenger bus. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. We're gonna have some new buses in the fleet.
Okay.
And we go to carpet. Taylor carpet quote.
I didn't expect that to be this high. So
Puts us over the threshold.
it puts us over the threshold, so we're gonna have to bid it out. But
Well, there's nothing wrong with that either. There's plenty
No.
of companies out of Bismarck. I think,
Right.
that are glad to bid this
Right.
too, and
The only thing, make sure if they're removing that floor that they know what's below it.
right, and I'm still, BJ had the asbestos report for here, but I'm not sure if Taylor is included in the same binder, so I have to go through that.
I have there's one in Taylor also.
I thought we couldn't find it.
I told you I found it.
Okay. Good.
So basically that just needs to
I
get
don't-
sent out to bids.
I don't
Right.
remember the year on it, but it was less than 1%. And it was down in the boiler room
Yeah,
somewhere.
'cause
But
yeah,
I don't
that's right.
remember- But I
You
don't
had said
remember
it's
what
just,
the year on it
Pipe
is.
coverings, it didn't mention the tiles.
Right.
Oh, really?
But we should look at it more closely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and Dave, I think you had said,
Yeah, the 12 by 12 shouldn't be
The-
asbestos tiles.
yeah, the size of the tiling.
You don't think it is?
9 by 9s were all the asbestos tiles, they're only 9 by 9s, the 12 by 12 shouldn't be.
I don't wanna know why you know that.
It's good to know.
Experiences.
But I do think, I mean, you could just essentially go over the top. Like, I don't remember,
As long as you don't disturb it.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it just is if they're ripping the old stuff
Yeah,
out.
don't disturb it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that tile will come along.
But Lindsay,
And that old red
there
carpet is
is-
tough
it's
stuff.
cement in underneath, there is no tile in second grade.
Yeah. there's
That's
no-
what I was wondering, the
there's no
classrooms
hole.
probably
I
doesn't
don't
have
think there's
tile.
tile in the tile, at least most of them.
The only ones will be downstairs, and I don't remember if those were 12 by 12 or 9 by 9.
Those are bigger ones.
Yeah.
The only 9 by 9s were in the stage area.
Hallway, yeah, and one hallway. Is it the lower hallway, I think still has the 9 by 9.
How many rooms are we talking?
And just because they're 9 by 9, don't mean they're asbestos either, it's just a possibility.
I'd have to count them. I told him when he was there, I think he said 14.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's counting staff room, office space,
computer lab,
all of it.
everything.
I'd have to recount, I can.
That's okay, that's okay.
But I
It's
think
just
it was 14.
You know, how many have red in them?
Too many.
5 or 6, I think.
All of
Where
the
did that
upstairs
ever
except
come from?
preschool.
Was it
And
West
the
County?
library must have been done more recently, cause that's been
Square foot over there.
that was on the carpet choices. I asked them if they wanted it back and they didn't, so.
No, I'm saying when they put it in there,
Oh,
When they originally put it in.
I thought two red.
It's some good stuff too, that carpet's
Well, maybe.
good shape.
it's tough on the eyes and the brain also.
About 10,500 square feet, according to, this bid. That's,
Put it
That's
out
why
in
that's-
business, get it done.
Yep.
You wanna say that out loud?
okay, alright. Let's
Save us all sorts of money.
keep moving here. Mr. Paulson, requested this next item, school board evaluation, possible public comment during meetings and possible meeting room.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
At the, recent conference with the School Board Association, a few things that we covered, I thought I'd bring to the board. One of them, the first, we were given a presentation under open records and open meetings for school boards. This was given to us by a representative from the Attorney General's office. In general, the message I took away from it is, it seems like there's a lot of do this, thou shalt, don't do that. Most of that is probably from case law and problems that happen. But in general, the intent, if you look at what open records and open meetings are, is just that. Have a meeting that is open, that feels open. You're trying to be sure that public knows that they're welcome and that the meeting is welcoming. One of the things that was resounding to me that I think we should consider is access to meetings. One of the slides stated that if a meeting is held in person, the meeting room must be accessible to, and the size of the room must accommodate the number of persons reasonably expected to attend the meeting. I would question where we hold our meetings right now fits that. I'd like to have some discussion, but I think that we could reasonably expect, I know tonight, it got a little bit crowded in here. I would say that this meeting room is not necessarily open. We sit here around a table with almost our backs to anybody from the public that shows up. It's pretty decent for the recording from what I've seen in here, so that's certainly something to consider in this. But I'd like the board to take a look at that and think about access to this. I know that.
I can tell you that I'm on year 4 now, and until the staff at Taylor started coming, we had 0 people come to these meetings.
Sure. Yeah.
Not a single one.
And I get that. Now you should ask yourself, a board, why? When you
I
look
take
at,
that back. We did have one gentleman came quite a few times, I guess. So there was one.
So you look at, you might want to ask yourself why on that. And maybe some of it is that. Does the public feel welcome here? When you look at the video hits, we had one time that had over 3,000 views on the videos. So why do we have that many views? 3,000 views, guys, that's 3 times the number of people that voted in the last school board general election. So anyway, I'd like us to consider those kind of things in the meeting room. And it just simply said also on the slide, if the meeting is held by electronic means, the electronic capacity must accommodate the number of persons reasonably expected to attend the meeting. I'd hope that we wouldn't think reasonably expected would be 0, right? You look at a lot of other boards and look at the recordings, the board sits kind of as a body in front. There's usually seating for the public. There's time, that was the second one that was interesting to me, was that the board itself can decide, but should decide and should not leave it just open. We should act on several things, and one of them regarding the opens meetings is public comment and public comment period. Staff comment period. We should at least go through the discussion of what we want for public comment. We can set the rules within confines of what's fit with general accepted practices and law, but we should address that, and we should include that in our information of what we put out to the public. Whether that be that we allow public comment if, someone submits in advance that they want it, public comment for X amount of time. But I think it's something that the board should take a look at and discuss what our public comment processes are. I've had some feedback from some people, statements like, well, I don't know if I should come, I don't even know if I can talk. I feel like I have to interrupt to be able to give information. We should address that kind of thing. I feel like I'm not welcome because there's no place for me to sit. I've had some of those comments. I guess that in general is the section that I'd like to say about open meetings. There was a lot of other content, but I think if we start there, we could get somewhere with improving our meetings as far as being open. The other area that I thought I'd bring up was school board evaluation. We had a presentation on, it was very short, especially for the content. The Center for Public Education, and I mean, all asterisks with the fact that I'm never a big fan of anything that's bureaucracy divvied down. This one here seemed interesting. It had, it was titled 8 Characteristics of Effective School Boards. Granted, of the 8 things they brought up, some of them probably don't apply well to a board in a district like ours. Certainly, we know that we're statistically probably not one of the districts where a lot of these practices fits as far as just our size and that. But I thought it was interesting. Most of the content of this, again, the presentation was pretty short in the fact that, we weren't given this in advance, and that this alone was significant reading to look into. But they also gave out this piece where it's a school board self-evaluation. I think it's something, we just went through Dr. Ziegler's evaluation. I think it's something we should consider is taking a look at what a self-evaluation of our board would look like. I think the evaluation would help drive improvements. But anyway, I guess for this meeting, I just thought I'd bring up the points and entertain the idea that if the board would like to, I don't know, get together on a retreat or some sort of method of discussing some of these kind of policies. Again, certainly that has to be open. Regular board meeting time is probably challenging to insert all this, meetings get long. But those two were two that I thought that I got out of the conference that I wanted to bring to the board and discuss if we wanted to entertain either one. And I know you were at both of those. Did you have any comments that you had?
I mean, do we have any other rooms in the building here or anywhere that would work with the IT capabilities to still be streaming it and doing everything that we're doing now?
I think the only other time we've been in a different room was in the music room.
We used the music room one time. So on a meeting where we've had meetings where we anticipate a bigger crowd, then we have moved to different rooms, and that's still certainly an option. You anticipate a controversial topic and, we set up a bigger room. That's certainly easy to do. I will tell you that this room is a huge improvement over what we used to sit in the old school. That was basically an extension of the superintendent's office. And we put guests in there, and we always had teacher presentations, which, by the way, I like. Maybe that's something I want to think about adding to board meetings. But so this is a nice improvement, and thought, we designed in a nice room here. My opinion on that would be, before we go to a bigger room, maybe we could just get some nice guest chairs and lines. We had 8 people in here tonight, and I don't think that was unreasonable by any means or crowded. If you had, like a good waiting room chair, something a little step up from that, but put some nice chairs around. Maybe we want to shift this table a little bit this way, and until we start overflowing this room, I don't know if we need to switch unless we know something's gonna cause controversy. You go to a bigger room, but, that's my opinion, it's my opinion. For that part.
And as far as the public comment, was the public ever instructed they can't comment, or do you wanna just add a spot to the agenda where they can, or?
The point is this, is left undetermined is just that. You have it defined. You know, we certainly should, as a board, define several things, a lot of things, there's a long list. This one was one that I thought, because of other comments comments I've gotten from the public, was something I thought we should address. There's a long list of things that a board like ours should address that, as far as I'm aware, now Mr. Ziegler told me that he's working on digging up policies, procedures, protocols, what we have. What's available online is the basic, non-discriminatory policy, is the can downloaded from but policies around things like we brought up before, delegation of authority. As far as I know, this board has never delegated what authority of spend our superintendent has and laid out those definitions. But anyway, so we certainly could work through, and I'm not suggesting, never would we probably work through everything that is presented, but those topics that we know are something that should be, that our stakeholders are interested in, hearing comments like that, like, I don't even know if I should come because I don't know if I get to speak. Well, we gotta address that thing.
On the topic of, like this board has never said how much a superintendent can spend, but how do we know boards before us haven't? What's our?
It doesn't
our
matter if it's
procedure
not
for that?
in, it should be readily available in a policy.
It should be a policy.
It'd be in a policy book, or or do you have to dig through minutes? I mean, because every motion doesn't go into a policy book.
No.
And every.
Yeah, you'd have to look through the minutes of.
But how do you?
Well, this is a simple, Mr. Ziegler, do you know what your delegation of authority is? No, there you go, there's your answer.
I go by 10,000.
Right. Yeah.
Which, interestingly enough, is more than I have, I have a $5,000 delegation of authority, and I work for a $40 billion oil company. So I'd be uncomfortable with 10,000
But how
at a
much does
delegation
the
of authority.
CEO of your company, how much can he spend?
I don't even know.
Right. I mean, and essentially, our superintendent is the CEO of this school.
But 40 billion versus 6 million is a significant
I
difference,
know,
right?
but I mean.
And I've also seen inconsistencies in our practices of what the superintendent allows and then what will be brought to board. So that, anyway, in the end, this stuff should be defined.
And defined, like I said, always in a policy book, or, like I said, or our minutes. I mean, if you dug back, 10, 20 years, would you find it in minutes somewhere? It just never ended up in a policy book?
I think what I've been told anyway is lawyers are telling you, if it's not in policy anyway, it's what you've done previously. What's your past practice? And that's what they're gonna tell you to go by, whatever your past.
So I think the only way you
practice
could really do that is just like we do with dues and fees. How much we charge at the gate for admission, how much, and we review that annually. That's the only way you can do it.
Sure.
Because you can't do it, well, this was in the minutes 20 years ago. Well, 20 years ago, gas was 79 cents a gallon. Okay,
So $5,000 is comparable to 5,000.
Yeah, so I think that, I like the idea, but it's something I think that you would have to do annually, like you do with your gate fees and how much your season passes cost and how much the gym membership is, and you'd have to do it that way. There's no other way to do it, on an annual basis. And it wouldn't take very long once you get it all figured out. You would just do like we do now and say, yep, looks good, we'll carry it over to next year. Or do you feel like this isn't enough, or that you're bringing too much to, whatever that discussion looks like. But that's the way you'd have to do it.
Sure.
Now, you can't put it in a procedure, you can't put it in anything like that. It would have to be annually reviewed, in order to make it even worth doing.
And understand the reason for that is that at some point, everybody around this table would say, hey, look, that's too much for the superintendent to just decide by themselves, right? I don't know if it's 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20, 30, 40, but at some point you're gonna get to that. But if we haven't defined that, and the superintendent does spend $130,000, you have nowhere to stand. You never have said no, right? So then at that point, you haven't accomplished. So the fact that the statement is saying, well, look, it hasn't been defined, it's just assumed. No, it is incumbent upon us to set these policies, right? And it should be, you know, to the point, whatever we come and vote what a dollar amount should be on there. But anyway, I think that, you know, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, and the things I'm bringing to the board tonight is a couple that I think is something we should take action on.
I'll comment on one. Damien, having retreat would be a great idea. We did it years ago and they were good. And then we just quit doing them.
I like that idea too.
That is a great idea, sure, but it's hard to put together. It's just like, it's just like.
Trying to get everybody in
Yeah,
a day.
trying to get it put together and
Yeah.
then you get it.
Do you do that as a open meeting?
Yeah, it's an open meeting. Yeah.
Well,
we used
what
to
did
do 'em every
Dickinson,
day
she
after.
said that they do 2 meetings and
No, well, they do a workshop for
A
an
workshop.
hour before, but it's open to the public, if anybody
Correct.
wants to come in,
It
they
has
just
to
call
be.
it a workshop,
Yeah.
and they don't make any motions or
Right.
vote on anything, they just discuss the topics.
well, really even a retreat has to be open.
Yep.
Yep.
Open, but yeah, exactly that. You
Yep.
say we're not discussing.
Yeah, there's
business
no
or
motions.
making-
made.
There's no
No
motion.
motion.
Yeah.
Anything like
You
that,
can
somewhat of
discuss,
an
you can
agenda.
discuss anything, there's just no motions.
You just discuss things like this.
That is a great idea.
Yeah,
I think it is too.
That's something we talked about doing it in the last 5 years, we never got it done.
Yeah.
You know, but it would be good. There's no doubt. And as far as people coming to the board meetings, I've never, ever heard anybody being stopped from talking. We've always allowed people, there's a lot of boards that won't allow it. I mean, they just, it's a business meeting and you gotta be on the agenda and they will
Right.
let you talk. We've always, people have come, we've asked them if they have something to comment, never, ever has anybody been shut down.
And if that's our policy, it should just be stated.
Yeah.
It should just be in minutes somewhere and stated that,
That's just how
look,
we've done it.
we have an
I mean,
open policy to the point of if public has a comment on a topic being discussed, they can, whatever it be, if we go to the first grade, raise my hand, whatever it is,
Usually
you know.
address them when they come right in, you know, is there something you got, and we let them talk. We may not act on it, we more than likely won't act on it,
Sure.
but you allow them to talk.
Yeah.
They're patrons of the district, you gotta let them.
Yeah, if they bring up something completely off agenda, you almost can't act on it.
You won't act on it,
Right.
but you listen to
Right.
them.
Get the agenda.
And maybe it goes on the next agenda, that
Right.
is something
Yep.
that gets addressed.
Well, you at least allow your superintendent principals to check out what's going on, you know, what it's about.
I would just challenge that we
Yeah,
set
so
that
I-
policy then.
So if somebody
And
feels that they can't
The
come.
downside about completely open like that is if, again, if you've never defined it, then people are left not knowing. That one's a difficult one to communicate. Yeah, come on in and speak your mind, as compared to, look, if you wanna address the board, let the superintendent know in advance. It is more inviting, to that intent of having an open meeting, inviting that is,
And
I
I
would
will,
say
and I
gives
will
you more.
say that I don't know where this came from, and these guys can vouch this. As a past employee not sitting around the table, that was the vibe I always felt, like you don't talk unless you're spoken to. And so I don't know where that came from or
It came from
why.
Kelly.
From who?
Kelly.
Okay.
He said unless you are on the agenda or invited to speak, you are not to speak. So that's why a lot of people who might be interested in coming are not coming, because it was, at least to me, indicated that you are not supposed to be talking, you're not on the agenda.
Unless you're addressed.
But I'll say
Yes.
at meetings that even when Kelly was here, when it was a non-staff member anyway, was here, he would talk and ask questions.
Well, Matt Turner was here several times.
Yeah, and
We allowed him to.
yeah, and there was no issues with
I
that.
mean, you gotta
I
be
think-
careful, cause if you drag it out too long, you'll be here till midnight.
Yeah, right.
Fair enough, and that's why
And
I
I think
say,
you put a time limit on it and that kind of thing.
You can't have them interjecting on everything that's going on.
absolutely.
You know, so you gotta be careful, and that's something you can talk about at your retreat.
Yeah.
That'd be a great place to discuss that, what you wanna do.
You know, or do we wanna put it on the next agenda?
Well, I don't know if you want, I think you wanna think it through and come up with a plan.
Come up with some rules around it?
Yeah, because you can turn this into chaos really fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people should not feel like they can't come here.
Yeah, and what I'm telling you is that I've got we just heard testimony that we have some of that. And I'm just saying we should, and we shouldn't be, you're correct. We should, but we should address it.
Right, I would put that as one of your discussion points at your retreat or something.
Are you looking to then suggest that we look for a retreat, or should we look at a workshop session?
I think you call it whatever you want, it's the same outcome, I mean, you
Well,
know.
I guess to me, the difference then is retreat, we're talking about a significant amount of time for a day or two, where a workshop's an hour before each meeting, or a couple hours.
I think a workshop you can hammer out in 2 days too, whether you
Right.
call it a workshop or a retreat, I don't think it really matters, the point of it is trying to get some stuff done.
Well, I guess what I'm suggesting is, do we wanna talk about what we do, set a time, whether it be for a day, for a couple of evenings, or that, to go through some of this stuff, or do we wanna work it into our regular meetings? I mean, I get it, and trust me, busyness is difficult.
I like the idea of a separate retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it something that you hire a leader, a retreat leader for that, or do you do it yourself?
You do it yourself.
Just do it yourself.
Yep. You, board president would lead it, just like any other board meeting, but it's not, you don't make motions. You just have, you still have an agenda, you
Yeah,
have
you'd wanna come up
discussion.
with an outline.
Right, you would have some structure to your meeting and what you're gonna, somewhat of an idea why you're gonna get together. Like I said, we had them up at the Abbey.
I think last time I was at one, it was at Messer's Beaver Creek Cabin. Had it down there one year. You were there.
I don't think so.
Get off-site. Well, we get it, technically, it still needs to be open.
Yeah, you publish it,
You publish it,
where you're-
yeah.
And you don't wanna go someplace where people can't come.
Right.
You know? Yeah. But, yeah, you take it out of the school too, it's kinda nice to take it out of the school setting too. Yep.
Well, it's a project we can look into.
Yep.
See if we can find time for that. So Hawaii is out.
Yeah, Hawaii.
Okay.
Well.
Any more on that topic?
If you go next year, I'm for sure out.
Okay, exit interviews discussion.
Yeah, I put that on. I just kind of wanted to talk about it. I know there's a lot of different, employers, businesses, companies, whatever, that do exit interviews. I feel like it would be good information to have, why are you leaving? Is there anything that, if your brother, daughter, uncle, brother were to take your position, what would you change for them that it wouldn't be as difficult, or would be, whatever. Figure out however you want to do it, but I think it's an important practice to better yourself, help with retention, that kind of stuff. And I know that then they feel heard too. If there are grievances or issues or whatever, then they felt heard. Because I want to know why people are leaving. To me, it's important. And if it's something that, whether it's we did wrong as a board, or Russ or Misty or whoever, so if somebody did something wrong, I want to know why and what that was. So I think it's important to do things like that for retention, growth. Maybe there's things that'll change, and maybe somebody's just mad, and let them air it out. It doesn't matter, but I think that is an important thing that we should start doing. And if somebody doesn't want to do it, you can't make them do it. But if they feel like it's something they want to do, then I think we should ask them if they'd like to.
We've done it in this building for exit interviews for 4 years, but not around last year. Cause that was something that Kelly did here, so there's a file somewhere with all the
Did he
exit
share them with
interviews.
the board?
John, do you remember?
No.
Oh, I guess not.
I didn't even know they happened.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, who did the interviews?
Well, that's the other thing too. I think,
Usually it's the business manager.
Yeah, and
Oh, here it was a superintendent, principal, or another teacher.
Talk about intimidating.
Yeah, so.
They actually really, honestly, they actually really enjoyed saying like, this is what I liked about my job, this is what I would change about my job, and.
I just would I would personally have a time, just as an example, if I left and had an issue with Russ,
Right.
I'm not gonna tell him
And
that in an
that's where I was
exit
gonna go
interview.
with that, yeah, is I think that, you know, maybe if we do an exit interview, it's, a person can request, can I have a board member, can I have the superintendent, can I have the business manager, whoever, you know, have a list of people that are available for an exit interview. And maybe it's one or two, or maybe it's one, or maybe it's all of them, or whatever. But give that person the opportunity to pick. So then, you know, there's a list of 5 people. If one of those people you have a problem with, then pick somebody else. And if you have a list of more than a couple, then it's not narrowing it down, like, obviously they had a problem with me, you know what I mean? And somebody might be more comfortable with one person over another, you never know. I mean, they might share more and get the real reason out of it versus just a generic, I'm moving on for a better job, you know, come
If
on.
you're gonna do it, you want
There's-
the truth out of the.
Yeah, there's a reason why you're leaving, I'm sure. And if you're leaving for a better job, you know,
Well, that
advancement in your
alone is good
career or
information
whatever,
as well.
so be it. I mean, you're not gonna get everybody every time, but I just think it's an important thing to have, and I think we should really consider something like that as well.
And as far as we know, that is not in current policy, right?
No, that is not, yeah, as far as we know. But I think that's like, I mean, up to administration too to do, we wouldn't need it in policy if you didn't want it in policy.
But you should come up with some sort of standard of what kind of questions
Oh, yeah,
or
absolutely,
what kind of things,
yeah.
just to like
Sure.
give insight into how to start that discussion so
Right.
that it's consistent.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just throwing out there, I've seen my company go so far as to hire a third party for an exit interview. Interesting deal, but got a lot of good data out of that. I mean, to your point of going for a better job, well, what's better? Is it pay, is it schedule, is it number of students I have to teach, is it position, is it, yeah, so I'll just throw that one out there. That was probably, being involved in a lot of exit interviews, that was the one that gave the most substantive value.
Well, and I think you'd probably get that too if you had a list of people and that
Correct.
person.
That
could
is a
pick.
good, yeah, I'm not
I
gonna
think
say you
you
wouldn't.
might get a little, you might not get all of it, but you might get a little more of that.
Yeah.
A third party costs money.
Yeah.
Now, staff retention is a top, I pay for data to understand staff retention for sure, so.
But I mean, at least it's a start, you know, we can see how it goes and whatever else if we decide to do something like that, but I just, yeah, I feel like it's an important thing to have, information wise.
Is that possibly something we can get out of the company doing is it the Vital company that's doing our staff retention?
That's interesting.
Good question.
I mean, if nothing else, you know.
A template or something.
Here's our template that works good for exit interview, you know, tailor it how you want, but at least you'd have, you know, some questions to start with, and, you know, maybe even go so far as to, okay, this is always the form we use, okay, now let's log that data so that you can see a trend here. Oh, it looks like 60% of our people are leaving for pay.
Got it, there you go.
So yeah, something to ask.
Yeah.
Vital, I guess, we start there. More discussion on that? Sounds like it's a good idea. RACTC.
That last Wednesday, they're moving stuff around, like I said, I think the anatomy table's coming here this spring.
Teachers are getting trained.
Right, they're looking at getting a welding simulator, and they question why a welding simulator. I guess because you can simulate the same things as welding, and then you don't have the sparks, you don't have the actual physical sparks, so people can kind of go in and try it. So they're looking at getting one of them. Their stuff is being moved around, they're busy, so things are good. I did bring up AI. That's something that's really gonna be something big. I don't know if I guess you can't be scared of it. It's almost like when the internet came out. You know, there's a lot of good things coming with it. The guy from Hedinger, he said there's a school down in Texas, he saw it in 60 minutes. And they actually are doing their math program with AI. So, and they are, scores are going rocketing. But it's a private school, so a lot of, he didn't know a lot about it, but yeah, I don't think I wanna take AI and start training it for a teacher yet. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, next meeting, December 11th, 6 p.m. Okay, with that, meeting adjourned.
Last night all I think about is you. Don't stop, baby, you come up too. Don't harm, baby, think about you. You know that I'm never gonna lose. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. Heat waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. Heat waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. Usually I put something on TV, so we never think about you and me. But today I see our reflections clearly in Hollywood, laying on the screen. You just need a better life than this. You need something I can never give. Fake water all across the road. It's gone now, the night is come. But sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. Heat waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. You can't fight it, you can't breathe. You say something so loving, but now I gotta let you go. You'll be better off in someone new. I don't wanna be alone. You know it hurts me too. You look so broken when you cry. One more and then I say goodbye. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. Heat waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. Heat waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. I just wonder what you're dreaming of when you sleep and smile so comfortable. I just wish that I could give you that look that's perfectly unsaid. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. Heat waves been faking me out.